kind of tell what we got on the packet.
All right, Leslie, you're
We only got one copy.
Really
There's
good
this
photograph
schedule,
from
what everybody's
the
got going on.
I'm not talking, so it won't be on.
Hey, maybe the
Let's don't
coffee,
make any noise though.
maybe the
Yeah.
coffee cup would fall on top of that.
Hey, man,
Let's get down this way.
I need a shelf to put my cup right here.
We're not. Are we on?
Let's go down.
Real quick, before we get started, obviously it's a workshop, it's a little bit different, just so everybody understands. The budget's a little different this year, obviously with being zeros. Some people submitted zeros, some people didn't. There's 4 exceptions that we know of, and those are 4 people that came to us last year. In fact, like drug court, Ms. Tracy said it last year during budget. You know, and then Mr. Isabel came to us about some software last year that's going to save some money. And then Judge Carter had one where he had to hire somebody, had to pay a little bit more because he had 3 people turn down the salary. We talked about that. He's trying to find the money, but that was when we knew he would have to take that out. And then finance we had.
Transfer here.
And then, but other than that, we're really pretty much zero for everybody, 0 raises. There's some people that are gonna be required, like with ECC, that are gonna have to ask for something, even though they know what it is, just because we're not the only organization that funds them, so they need to be able to. And there's some others that wanted to present the request regardless, so it was documented that this is what we asked for, even though they didn't get it. Really, that's going to be about it. It shouldn't be kind of complicated. Before, when we'd always do it and we'd talk about it and then we'd set it later, since we're going to do an abbreviated kind of budget process this year a little bit, what we'll do is after everybody's had a chance to present to us, they'll be done. If we have questions, we'll ask them, and then what we'll do is we're just going to talk about it right afterwards, each one. Realistically, each one just needs to be set back to 0 or to what it was last year, you know, without raises or anything. And David and Ms. Bethany, everybody have what it should be. They've got what they've requested. They've got what it should be. It won't take us realistically 2 seconds because it's kind of carte blanche. You know, if we're into reserves, there's no sense to spend more than we have to. Other than, like I said, those 4 exceptions that were good and let us know well in advance of what was going on. If anybody has any questions, like we've always done, just interrupt me so that we go. I can't see everybody, so you'll have to say something. David, did you have specific ones?
Yeah, I was gonna go over the Mile High View where we're actually at on the budget. This budget is built on, it's not built on a catastrophe, it's built on the things we know, such as 2001-2 recession, the 2008-9, and things that we know are reasonably consumed at this, or assume at this point, such as hotel motel. We use numbers from Smith Travel Research or online, use TDOT numbers. When you look at the budget, the first thing, this sheet right here, it is focused on one thing. It is on your table. We'll go down and I'll show you the important stuff. You can go down, Amanda, to the summary on the bottom. Before we get into the general fund, the general fund looks deceptive. Go real quick, go make them larger on the screens. If you look, we're about $3.5 million worse off from last year. 2 things contribute to that. One is about a loss of about $1.6 million worth of revenues, and then the actual increase outside of statutory is still about $1.8 million. That certain departments wanted a chance to present their non-zero budget, but 3.5 would be a considerable amount of your reserves. We're considering our best estimate for instance, the 19-20 year, the one we're in right now. We're going to eat all the reserves that we built in 18-19. If we use this $3.5 million number, we would go back another 2 to 2.5 years. So that number right there is pretty high. The reason it looks different, for instance, on your budget, it shows a $59,000 variance on revenues. If everybody remembers, the budget was approved, and then it was back and it was amended for about $1.2 million for school resource officers. So when you first look at this budget, it doesn't look bad, but then you can go into other ones such as debt service, over $1 million worth of interest loss, adequate facilities. A couple of things to note. For instance, the 112 budget, when we get to it, we're going to have to balance it by cuts and moving cost of general fund. The debt service fund includes the bond, the best estimate for it, that is to be issued early July to mid-July at this point. The highway department is balanced. Your debt service is balanced, and your capital fund is balanced, but however, it's got a lower than you probably like balance, and there's about I think 1.5 million. You probably need about $2 million really to be safe. You probably need to look at it quite closely this year. What this sheet right here, what we try to do is we take your last year's budget, we try to adjust for one-time things such as the sheriff. You're gonna have to give him credit for SRO officer, his budget will show at least $1.2 million more than last year. We also try to eliminate things such, that would be the amendments, reclassifications, because Mr. Isbell combined a few things. We try to remove flow-through funds for both years. And then we try to put in here things such as there was a little bit of savings for turnover in a few offices. And then there's certain statutory increases this year. For instance, the elected officials are based on the average raises of state employees, and it's also the census year. This budget's based on our population being between 175 and 199. It may be more. And I talked to Ms. Lee, and we actually verified the CTAS. The census will be certified by the feds this April, and it goes back to July 1, which is my understanding. That's built in here. And then the county has historically always covered insurance changes from family to single because we don't want discrimination or hiring practices. And then the other one's longevity's been covered for the last 20 plus years. And the total cost to cover the longevity is $36,000. So in the big scheme of things, that's a project's been going on for 20 years, and I don't think most people want to cut it for $36,000. But that's the mile high view. This one is built on the most recent recessions, but it's not built on any kind of apocalyptic or anything stuff.
And when we talk about the reserves, that's one of the things is our goal is to eat up as little as we can because we know even though we've got some, we're losing them. Where we thought, we would have gained maybe $2 million this year, now we're gonna break even. And then, and then the upcoming year, we're for sure gonna, we're gonna be down $1 million where before we would have been ahead. So we've still gotta make up that ground too at some point. And as far, I know initially we had talked last year about trying to do some HR stuff. The only thing we're gonna put in is there's $50,000 in for a salary study for all of the offices in the county general. And any elected official that wants to take part and also for their employees, so that way we can get all of that on kind of an equal playing field like we did with Lori. We thought that was a good start for things, and then if we have other stuff that y'all think is important, we'll certainly try to work it in.
Would they like to see the general fund reserve changes, that way they get some idea what they're looking at?
And that's what I say, while we do this,
General fund.
they'll, when we make the changes, it'll take effect, so.
David, one thing that you just included in that summary, as far as statutory and the elected offices, so we don't have a choice on whether or not those.
There's a minimum salary, and it's based on, each year it's adjusted based on the average increases for state employees, and this year is also the census year.
And I talked to David, and realistically, we're probably gonna be over 200,000. That puts us in another category.
Just
Be more expensive. So just to be conservative, I know we're at the 175 to 199.
Right.
So we wanted to put it in that, be as conservative as we can. We understand the employees aren't getting raises, but we don't have a choice with that. And actually, if you don't do it,
Is
you'll
the
get
state
nothing.
talking about that right now?
You're
No, it's for the
It's
prior
set by
year.
the state.
It's the prior year.
It's always,
Yeah, a year, okay.
it's
thank you.
statutory, it's in state statute.
It's a year behind, Mr. Witt, that's why. This coming year, the state is not discussing raises, my understanding.
No, they're not.
It's based on the prior year, so it lags a year behind. And then your actual census will be through this December, it gets certified in April.
That's
Goes
gonna
back.
be your problem. is your
Yeah.
census.
And we're estimating it up to
It's just a
199.
weird time that we're in this 10-year period.
Yeah.
On
okay,
top
thank
of
you for
everything else.
clarifying.
We know it's gonna be at least, at least this much will be their minimum salaries. Probably we're over 200,000, so they'll do another bracket up, and we'll have to come and adjust it once the census is certified in April. That's my estimate, but we don't know that 100%.
We're trying to keep it down,
Yeah.
if
But-
that makes sense.
Still on down, let's kind of show them.
Not that, we
Freeze
don't
hands
deserve.
are talking, man.
We all know.
Trying to get hold of a little more money.
Freeze
so
it
we
in
can pay
Phil
farm.
B.
That's right.
Freeze paint BA, click BA.
Gotta buy some Cadillac.
Go down, let's show them how to do it.
That's for me, a good 11 minutes.
Now, see, the county's been
I didn't
prepared.
think we'd go that far.
If you look at our historic, what we've seen, for like 15, 16, this sign says change in unassigned fund balance, and down in the grade, we picked up 2.4, 2.3, 2.4, and last year 1.19. We think this is a pretty reasonable estimate. We're gonna lose about $1 million last year, so that's gonna put us back to our 17, 18 numbers. If we used that 3.5 plus that we're off from last year, it would put us all the way back to 16, 17, or 15, 16. You don't really wanna move back that many years that quick. So yes, there is because that's what a rainy day fund is, but right now what the budget says, the rainy day fund usage would be,
We're still trying to be tight with it.
it needs to be tightened down because you don't know for sure. how
I can tell you this, David has been very conservative on revenue projections. Now, we know we're gonna have some issues on sales tax. We know fuel tax and adequate facilities, not adequate facilities, but hotel motel tax. Those are bad. But we're going down on collectability on sales tax. I got a feeling that's probably not realistic from the extent that you're gonna be adding a lot of new properties. So even if collectability went down a couple of points, you're still gonna probably glean the same amount of revenue you did this fiscal year. So I think we're in pretty good shape on the revenue side because he's been so conservative, and that's what we like about it.
We got a good spot.
So, I mean, I feel good about it. I think realistically, with what you all have done and been very conservative over the budget over these years, plus, you know, we took the hit and we did what we had to do when we had the county-wide reappraisal to make sure that it wasn't revenue negative, that we're in better shape than probably any county around. I mean, I'm just being honest. And so, you know, you're gonna have to probably, not have to, you probably need to make a few adjustments here and there, but as long as we keep it pretty conservative, I think we're gonna weather the storm quite well. And my sense, you know, the latter part of this year, we're gonna start climbing out of this, hopefully, pretty rapidly.
Your most significant things that we see decreases on are interest earnings. One thing that did help us, we have several CDs and investments that will be maturing mid-year, so that's gonna help us somewhat. But for instance, sales tax, what we used is back in the 8-9 recession, you've seen a 3.3% drop over a 2-year period. So we took 19 as our base, which is our last year, dropped to 3.3. On the face, that sounds good, but really there was 2 years where we usually have growth of about 6.5. That's one of our growth revenues. When you add all that together, you're really down about 15% of what you would usually be. Adequate facilities and building permits, we took half the decrease in 8-9 because that was a building issue. And then hotel, motel, we took, I think it's Smith Travel Research had some online information, we used their numbers. So we actually decreased the 18-19 base by 37.5%, which is huge. So and in TDOT, Judy used worst case scenario, 25% drop. So we've used the best data at this point, but we're so early in this recession, it's hard to say, and we've been really conservative on property tax collectability, actually even lower than 8-9, because we don't know the distance.
Let me also say this, and think about this, Paul, you're involved in this. The TIF has now been paid off, that's a plus. That's gonna help. Also, the County Mayor's Association lobbied hard, the County Commission Association, to make sure that we get online sales, it's point of sale. So that is slowly being phased in. That's gonna help on the sales tax, because the way it was distributed was brick and mortar. And when you order something online, you don't order it brick and mortar, you order it at your point, at your house, your contact for sale. So I think we're gonna see that being a big plus the TIF, plus some of the economic activity that's going on in the county. I really don't feel as pessimistic, but I think David's doing the right thing by being very conservative and making sure that it's worst case scenario.
And hopefully we can do something midway through the year, whatever.
We're on the lower end of what's reasonable. We didn't go into apocalyptic crazy stuff, but we went on the lower end of
We don't see
assumption of
them say that
reasonable.
today.
Because for instance, we got sales tax for March, they were up 3%, but you gotta think of all the hoarding that happened in the first half of March. So that really skews your perception, it's gonna be good, but April, we know statewide, they were down about 15%, so.
2% was toilet paper.
Yeah.
Probably. But that was just surprising, we had a 3% uptick, it's usually about 6.5. It was a 3% uptick when we were closed for, what, a week and a half? A lot of stuff was closed a week and a half.
Well, David, I'm gonna go back to that online sales tax again, because a lot of people were forced to buy things online.
That helped us there significantly. It didn't make a difference, it didn't seem in January, February, but March, when the thing was shut down, it seemed like it made a pretty significant chunk.
Great. All right, if everybody's ready, man, what we'll do is, yeah, I know you haven't done this before, it's kind of a weird year. And just so everybody understands, with the ECC, we requested zero budget, she understood that, but she also answers to 5 other municipalities, so she had to present the budget she had, knowing that we're gonna say zero, but
Let me
There was a
say
reason she didn't
this.
get.
She had to go through two committees. She
Yeah.
went through the operations committee, which is made of all our first responders, all police chiefs, sheriff's office, EMS, EMA, fire departments for the whole county. They submitted a budget that, she had a much bigger request, and that got trimmed down. And then it had to go to the executive committee, and all the mayors had to agree upon that budget. So she's already jumped through a lot of hurdles.
But, man, go ahead, don't feel like you have to explain anything to us, everybody kind of understands the room. But just didn't want you to feel like you're being attacked.
Not
You're
at all.
good.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Marion Anderson, the director for the ECC, and as the mayor just stated, I have presented my numbers to the executive committee and to the operations committee. And we understand we are in a difficult time. What we've asked for.
Do you have page? Your budgets are on.
Exactly.
We're just trying to record you. In the minutes.
I know. Yeah, they're gonna pull up on the screen for us, for people who want to try to read. Ma'am, I apologize, I didn't introduce the room, because you haven't been here before. Obviously, you know Mayor Holt, and I think you met Ms. Denham before.
Yes.
Because Mr. Howell also does it. My name is Chris Taylor, I'm one of the commissioners. Billy Demenden, Dean DeWitt, Justin Nipper, Leslie Shell, Paul Good, and I know you know Mr. Long.
We've been working with her.
Yeah, but go right ahead.
And your detailed budget is, as requested, is on the screen right now, Marilyn.
Now I need to put my glasses on. Okay, and if I look down here, I'll have to take them off, so y'all please excuse me. Okay, so what was decided from the operations committee and presented to our executive committee? We understand we are in a difficult time, but we're also in the business of supporting the community. And so, while we understand that we can't give everybody a raise to be comparable to the other jurisdictions that we're losing our folks to, the director myself would not have an increase, the deputy director would not have an increase, and 5 of our entry-level positions would come in at an entry-level position rate. The rest of the folks that we have that have been doing this for a while, and we have some folks that have been filling in doing double and triple duty, we believe that it's only right that we do our best to retain those folks and to pay them for what they've been doing. And so we started out at, as the mayor said, with an 11% request, and we've trimmed it down to now we're probably at about 7 or 8%. So what's calculated here is mostly in salaries for the request that we've made. Also just adding our utilities into it. We've removed, as we're trying to be good stewards of our funds, we removed our $45,000 request that we had in our capital budget. And so we're asking for 4.4, actually less than that now that we've removed it. But the majority of the request is in our salary. Operationally, we are holding fast what we had last year. And I understand that, again, this is not our typical year, not our typical request. And my request would just be that as we move forward, even though we're at a 0%, if there's any possibility later on after things stabilize, and I'm going to be optimistic that we're going to get out of this, that we look back at granting the salary request to the staff.
Yes, ma'am. Does anybody have any questions?
Do you want us to change it to her zero request? It'll take about 2 minutes, maybe go and make this. And then you guys.
Ms. Marilyn, and we're kind of hoping, and talking with David and Mr. Charles, that maybe mid-year, we'll have some really good numbers by that point to make some good projections so that we could try and hopefully make some adjustments going forward. It'll be all on board.
And I wanted to bring this out to all of you, understand, that we're funding about 32% of this entire budget.
Yes.
And come, when's the numbers come out with the census, David? Mid-year?
They get, December, the
Mid-year
census is finished, but April.
2021?
April and April.
All right. That's when we readjust the percentage we pay. I got a feeling the county has not grown as rapidly as the cities, so more than likely our percentage will change, and we may fund less as far as a percentage, 1, 2, 3 points. So I just wanted to make you aware of that, because we're getting ready to get those numbers soon, and our share is based on call volume and population.
Would everybody feel comfortable that even if those numbers change, we keep their funding at the exact same number? So I know that's not much difference, but if it ends up that would at least get a little bit of extra in their pocket to start with. So,
I think that'd be great.
Anthony, did you say 31%?
32.
32, thank
32
you.
is our current.
Our current obligation, yeah. And that's, let me tell you, and I hope the cities hear this, thank God our cities, because a lot of these counties have gone into this and they didn't get participation. And so they're funding everything, which is a disaster, because, you know, the cities already had funding, as far as dispatch goes, but our cities, Hendersonville, Gallatin, Portland, Millersville, and Westmoreland, really, understand the value of having centralized dispatch and participated and been involved. So we want to thank them for working together, because, you know, 32% is a heck of a lot better than 100%.
Smart planning. How many dispatchers do you have right now? Do you approximately? It's about 45, okay.
We're missing about
Yeah. That will be my next question.
12 to 15.
So the budget is holding steady with anticipation of still trying to fill those positions, right?
So the request, even though we know it's probably not land right now, but the request is salaries to help get those extra 12 back and maintain.
And maintain the ones that we have, because we are losing folks. We train them, they have the knowledge and skill set, and they're leaving for jobs that are paying more money with less hours, less stress. It's
So
hard to
Wilson.
compete.
Well, you guys, oh, sorry, Dee.
Yeah, no, I was just curious, you know, is it everywhere?
Even in our county, even at the sheriff's office, we're losing folks to go and do teletype, which just requires you to do entry, not answer the 911 calls, not call take.
Remember, you
and
guys,
make more money.
you guys did the right thing, but you raised the base salary for a jailer up to $16 an hour.
And-
Well, that's had a big effect on the ECC and EMS, because I think, what's your starting salary?
$15 an hour.
And I think the jailers more than they starting EMTs too.
Do you plan on participating in the salary study that Chris
Absolutely.
mentioned? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Because I'd be curious just to kind of
We
see what
did an
that.
internal salary study just in the short period of time that I have been here.
Oh, okay.
And we are one of the lowest paying in the region. We compared ourselves to about 7 other agencies, and we're starting at $15 an hour. My supervisors make less than $18 an hour, and it's hard to convince somebody that's doing life-saving measures to come here and work on the holidays and work on the weekends, $15 an hour when you have Amazon paying $17 an hour to stack a cart.
Hey, I know this used to be maybe years ago, Robertson and Davidson for money. But for EMT, for emergency people that are going to another kind of emergency people, where do we lose most of our people to nowadays? From pre-COVID, I mean, not without technology.
It varies. It varies really. Like I said, we've lost to the county, we've lost to WEMA, we have lost to Williamson.
I think so.
Just-
You know, I think Cheatham was stealing some of the EMTs and stuff,
Yes.
just because they're call volume, so.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Robinson County?
Yeah, because
County.
they just have such a low call volume, so even if the money's comparable or a
That's
little bit less.
it. It's a less stressful
Yeah.
environment.
Well,
You're
you
not
know,
doing as much.
Where we might have 30,000 calls, they have 5. So
Makes
that's
sense.
what.
And we're averaging about 28 to 30,000 calls per month.
So here's
That's a
what,
lot of calls.
here's what Maryland presented back to us when we removed the salaries. I think you just sent back the salaries out,
Yes.
the adjustment line, and did some non-salary adjustments. We add them up and give you credit for insurance and longevity. She got about $1,003 more last year, which is immaterial, but probably we need to get Maryland to look at a few things like the director salary. When you did that, remember we had Mr. Hartsmeyer in there part of the year last year, so we probably need to take her total here and work with her probably tomorrow evening or something and get those kind of worked out. But get her total number.
All wrong now?
Just about.
Yeah.
I'm still
There's-
trying-
there's-
He helps out wherever the need is, but for the most part, he's returned back to Hendersonville.
Let me ask you this, David, if we took Hoffmeyer out of there, because we didn't need him, how much money would that save in the budget? And could we still stay at zero and use some of that money to augment some of these lowest paid
Well, I think, well, the thing is, she didn't get those 4 positions, and we're at a quarter, so it may be better for her to put that overtime, because you pulled overtime and those 3/4 positions. And that's kind of,
Whichever way gives her more.
Yeah, but I mean, we need to give her the leeway to do it
Yeah.
the way
Yes.
she sees fit.
If there's extra money, let's let her decide.
Yeah,
She
that-
should
I'm
retain
fine with that,
those
yeah.
people.
so she needs to get that, because right now, if we go, she needs to cut off the bottom line here, I think $1,003 will make it go to zero, yeah. And it shows a little more, but you always give departments credit for insurance changes and longevity and related benefits. So if we go down, it'll show total, it'll show she's from last year where she's 98 up, that's like insurance and longevity and other stuff.
You know, the problem is, when you look at the aggregate, if you're having to retrain,
Oh, yeah.
rehire, retrain, your
Yeah,
cost
yeah.
is exorbitant. If we could keep those employees and keep it stabilized, then those could go to salaries, and it's the same difference, the cost is gonna be the same. So, you know, I feel more comfortable letting our director decide on whether it needs to be overtime or whether it needs to be a salary adjustment, if we can vet it out and be.
Yeah, I don't
able
think
to-
anybody's interested in
Yeah,
telling her how to
everybody's in
speak.
agreement on that,
Yeah.
yeah, that's your business, so.
But the Harvesmeyer line item, is that in there right now?
Yeah, it's
Yes.
up there in the director.
Is the, or
So we're
part of
probably
the-
talking.
So you have to be there interim
Yeah.
to kind of give her a
Transition.
foothold on what was going on there. I think she got it.
Thank goodness.
So we're really looking at
Didn't know what you were getting into.
No, I did not.
Oh, come on.
35, 525 in there, it can be present, somewhere minus the $1,000 we would give her. And that'll put her 98 above last year, but that's because she's had insurance change.
Yeah.
Correct.
And longevity, I think you're pretty much
Yeah.
getting that wrong.
Oh, yeah, we're leaving.
So she went down 1,000, that 35 minus that 1,000 to bring her back. But if she can call, because you know, tomorrow will be a shorter day, she can call and get it, but really, we probably need to try to tie that down sometime by tomorrow evening, because we got to publish it in the paper.
Okay.
If she can get something back today, we can look at it tomorrow evening. But we gotta tie it back and get it in the paper by the end of the week or early next week.
Here, here.
Does anybody have anything else for
Other
him?
questions?
I've got a question that really doesn't have anything to do with the budget, but just curiosity.
She's here, sir.
Do you have any problems with addresses, finding people?
Talked about
That's
it.
something I would like
For
to-
10 years.
Something I would like the county to work on.
Yes, so we have Tanya's department that handles the mapping and GIS information, but we do have this side of the street belongs to this agency, and this side of the street belongs to that agency, and so when you have the resident who's just calling for assistance, they don't know whose jurisdiction it is, they just want help.
Everybody doesn't have an address number, and I
No.
don't see how you find anything.
A lot of mapping.
Anyway,
I think the only
Yes.
problem area is Singtown.
So.
that's not the only one.
A few older areas that-
Billy, don't worry, you're in the system.
You're flagged. Fix it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We talked about it a little before they come in. The next one is Chief Miller with EMS.
Can you click the summary? When we give him credit for all the insurance and everything, he's 374, 726 more than last year. He's mentioned he's bringing in 250 to 500 more Medicare, but that brings up two concerns. Right now, EMS revenues are down, so I think you're probably going to need that to make up for last year. And then also, historically, only about 65%
And does he have salary increases in his service?
Yes, several in there.
Now, are those the steps that they have? or is it-
I don't really know, but really, this is the same one when we had the 3% budget, he made no changes to it. He
I
didn't
talked to Chief Miller last night.
Go ahead, sir.
He's got the same issue. And this is, I'm glad we're doing the salary statement, because here's the situation. We've got EMS people who are starting out at about $12 an hour, 11 something. And then you've got jail, and they're quite educated, you know, they've got to go through training, and you've got jailers starting out at $16 an hour. He's getting hammered right now. And that's an issue, and that's gonna be an issue, we've got to some way
Damn.
make some
Let's go to
extra.
Vegas.
Yeah, I want to talk before Hollywood come in.
I gotta get me some of them shoes, though, I'll make it real. Good morning.
Well, Chief, if you want to, it's, you haven't been through it necessarily, but in that regard, what we kind of talked about is,
Y'all can get a seat anywhere you want.
yeah,
You understand?
we know you've got some projections for additional. The big thing, what Mayor Holt was talking about was the fact that you're getting your butt kicked because it's under the jailer salary in the bottom, in the EMT. We are doing a salary study, and it's gonna be for every department. Obviously, it's gonna include y'all's too. The big thing for us is, I think David says you're still like 300 over. We know you've got some projections that would make up for it. We need to kind of talk about the salary stuff because we're not giving anybody raises anywhere, so we've got to kind of figure that out. But we also understand that y'all's is maybe a little bit different, and if we can stay near zero, so I'll turn it over to you.
All right, thank you. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to come in here and be able to communicate our needs. And I don't envy you all, because you're gonna have some challenges this year. I'm a realist, and I typically don't come asking for a wish list, so this is certainly needs. We're facing an EMS shortage right now because of pandemic, because of riots that are adding to that people don't really want to do this profession. Especially for the fact that, I think as Mayor Holt was saying before I walked in, EMT is our lowest level pay. It takes 1 year of college, and they have to have a state and a national certification to be an EMT. They start out at $11.07. The Sheriff's Department is advertising that they're paying $16.02 an hour for an entry-level jailer with no education and no certification requirements. A paramedic takes 2 years of college and requires 2 additional certifications. They start out at $14.33 an hour. So the problem that we're seeing, currently we are down 4 full-time positions. In the past couple of years, it wasn't that big of an issue. But what's happened in the last few years, everybody in the mid-state has plumped up. So what's sad now is, let me take for example Trousdale County. Their EMS runs 7,500 calls a year. Their personnel make 3,000 to 5,000 more per year than ours do. And we run 30,000 calls a year. Macon County is paid more than Sumner County. They run 5,000 calls a year. Robertson County is now paying more than us. Used to, we lost everybody to Metro. Now we're losing them to everyone. I'm concerned merely because we can't just poof EMTs and paramedics out. So when they quit and there's no one to replace them because our pay is no longer competitive, that means we've got to make a decision of what ambulance stations to shut down and what portions of the community will not be protected. And I do not want to make that decision, because every community within this county is just as important as the next one. That's the basis of what we're talking about. All I was asking for, I know.
No, go ahead.
All I'm asking for, if we can find it, is if I can go from $11.07 an hour to $12.25 an hour for EMT. I'm going to give you all a copy of all this. And it's from $11.07 to $12.32 an hour, and from $14.33 to $16.33 for the paramedics. That won't make us the highest. Our desire is not to be the highest, because it's not feasible. Our desire is to be competitive. We have a great benefits package and everything else, but the new generation, they want to look at the bottom line. And they're mercenaries. They will leave here and go somewhere else for a nickel more on the hour. And if we can just kind of level that off. If we can't do it now, I understand. If we can do a little bit now and say we're going to look at it in mid-year budget review, at least they know something's coming. These are the people that have been working all the way through this pandemic, all those hours. So I've got some information here that I'll hand out to you.
Is it safe to say that you have people quit, people that can't fill positions, that you have more overtime with other?
Absolutely. We're experiencing that right now.
Which costs just as much or
Which
maybe
costs
even
more.
more.
Absolutely. It's a lot more feasible to have full-time people sitting there than to have to pay overtime at time and a half. Not to mention all the overtime leads to burnout.
Thank you.
So we've all worked, those of us who work in public safety, now is not the time to have to work a lot of overtime to keep things going. Now, one bright note is that state legislature just passed back in the last couple of months, and the governor has signed to increase our TennCare reimbursements. So let me give you a real quick history. Medicare reimbursement rates on the federal level are typically about $270 per call. It costs us a lot more than that to run an ambulance call, but that's all they're going to give us. TennCare, for years, has been less than half of what Medicare pays. So if I transported someone in an ambulance and it was cardiac arrest and we gave all these medications and drugs and defibrillated and used these pads, then Medicare says we're going to give you $268. TennCare says you get $125 for that. And it is illegal for us to bill the patient for anything above what either TennCare or Medicare pays. Thank goodness the state legislature saw that and they increased the reimbursement on TennCare to match Medicare. They can't legally go higher than Medicare, but they're at least going to match that. So our TennCare revenues, without doing anything, will double. So on average, we see between $400,000 and $600,000 a year in revenue from TennCare. That will double to be somewhere between $800,000 to $1.2 million. So we're going to realize a little bit of extra money coming in that if you all see fit to do any of these changes, we've got a little bit of buffer there that will not be directly related to the taxpayers. That hopefully that will help offset this. I wouldn't be here if I didn't think that this was serious. I'm sounding the alarm because I don't know if it gets as bad in the next year as it has been in the past year. We're going to be facing some times that we've never faced here before. So I'll be glad to answer any questions. The only other thing that you see in the budget that is an addition, medical supplies. Because we're in a pandemic and stuff is in shortage, it is premium priced right now, so we're seeing a minimum of 30 to 40% increase. So there's no way that I can zero budget medical supplies and pharmaceuticals.
Pete, I'm going to interrupt you because you said if things change for worse this year, you didn't tell them what that means. Tell them what that means.
Well, like I said earlier, it's challenging right now to staff all of the ambulances. So if it gets worse, and it will get worse, we're going to have ambulances that we can't staff. So we're going to have to shut down stations and centrally locate people. At a minimum, that means that, I'm just going to pull the community out so everybody understands what I'm saying. If Westmoreland Station could not be covered and I had to cover it somewhere else, you're going to potentially double the response times to that area. So when someone stops breathing, clinical death begins in 4 minutes.
Chief, what was the difference in the number then when you gave us the minimums of bumping it up? What's that overall?
What you have in front of you is $200,000. What also I brought is what we compiled first in March when we submitted before the pandemic. But to give the raises to get us where we need to be and to increase the medical is $700,000 above last year's budget. That would cover the raises and the medical supplies. So if you offset that and you subtract between $400,000 and $600,000 from that as a non-impact to the taxpayer, I'm looking at a benefit or an impact of about $300,000 above last year's budget.
Let's take out the number for medical supplies for the increase on that, because that's one of those things that we have to spend reserves on. There's no choice about that. What would be what's the additional number for raises?
The additional number for raises at what I just said, that
Yes, sir.
hour per rate, everything. When I say raises, we went through, we calculated how it's going to impact.
Yeah, oh yeah, you have to.
Overtime and Social Security all the way through, all benefits. 675, 751 is that amount.
And you're projecting TennCare revenues realistically. David, you listening?
That's what we've got right now. We need to know his call volume. Because it appears right now his call volume has been down currently.
It was down in April, it's coming back in May.
So right now their concern is last year's projections appear to be significantly too high. even if we add back in some of his Medicare and team care, we need to find out what it's based on his position. So I don't think he's gonna pick up $1 million.
Well, how much?
I don't know, because right now his call volume is way down, and we don't know how much.
Yeah, but the call volume was down because there wasn't a lot of elective surgeries.
We're back to 90% of our
And
call.
Are you people were afraid to be picked up because of
But if you're
COVID?
90%, you're still talking about $700,000-800,000
As we stand here today, and there's still a month of
Sure.
revenue to come in on this fiscal
for
year,
next year.
not counting our 10-care kicker payments, which average out to be about $300-some thousand a year. We've already brought in $6.3 million. So, yeah. So that's,
You're gonna be short, we're estimating you're gonna bring in, you're gonna be about 80. And we could be off, I was estimating it's gonna be about 780,000 short this year. And then my concern is are you guys hauling nursing homes? Like you were, the transport to the doctor?
it's coming back, absolutely.
Are we sure during the pandemic it's coming back? That's what, because it's gonna have, because it's one of your more profitable, and it's a
Yes.
huge number up here, and it's way down.
That number is coming back.
So the thing is, we don't know when it's coming back next year, so we can't come in here and bank on.
All the doctor's offices that were closed, all of the routine procedures and the things, the skin care and the decubitus ulcer repair and stuff like that for our elderly out of the nursing home, that's back. They can't go forever and shut that off. So we're hauling those patients again. Hope is our transport coordinator for the BLS side. She said next week it's through the roof. We've got a bunch of schedules on the books, so.
Same thing, if you have a pandemic next year, even closed, they're gonna shut the nursing homes.
Let's look at this real quick, y'all.
I really don't think you're gonna recognize, unless things turn around, do you really think you're gonna recognize all those revenues next year?
Say that again?
Do we really think we're gonna recognize the 7.8 plus an additional $1 billion or 800,000 next year?
Let me just say this, if the pandemic comes back and they shut everything down again next year,
It's
it
all
doesn't
good.
make any difference.
Yeah.
I'm not about this.
It's all over with, because in the end, we're gonna go into not a recession, we're gonna go into a depression.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the nursing homes were the first thing they shut
Oh, yeah.
down.
Yeah, but
Nursing homes are a big transport.
Well, they are, but David, the nursing homes have still transported, I mean, if you need dialysis, they're still taking you to get
But not
dialysis.
at the same level.
Here, let's look at this real quick for everybody. We know there's gonna be the increase for the PPE and everything else. I think that's something that just, as a county, we have to eat it, that'll be going to reserves, and I know we don't wanna eat any more reserves than we have to, but that, I think is just, we accept that right off the bat, and just, yeah, hopefully it'll reside. I think the real meat of the issue is, $675,000 to get them to this level. And you're projecting an increase of 800,000 hopefully. David doesn't think it's gonna be quite that much. And there's still a shortage for this year. That's what we really have to kind of decide.
What about this, gentlemen and ladies, what about compromise?
And that's what I was.
Chief says he's got 800,000, David says it's gonna be less, cut it down to 600,000. And try to help us stabilize, because the cost of EMS becoming dysfunctional, I don't think you're going to want to close stations down, and that's gonna create a real issue for all of us, when you get into public safety, I'm sorry.
No, when does the 10-care reimbursement increase take effect? Is that July 1?
Yes.
Okay.
Leslie?
Would you be okay, Chief, if we did like what Mayor Holt just suggested, with the promise of, once we start seeing those numbers come in, if they are what you're projecting, that we can take care of that? And I mean, if we back pay it, I don't know legally what we can or can't do, but would you be okay, because I heard you say earlier, as long as they know there's a promise of something coming, do you feel comfortable with that? I mean, I know it's not
Can we do
ideal,
half now
but
and then half potentially?
I would,
I feel comfortable with that, just because I know we're gonna get more. Obviously, the state passed it, we know 10-care is gonna go
Yeah.
up.
Here's what I'm concerned, and this pandemic is the new normal, and I hate that phrase, but it's changed all of our lives. And with now everything that's going on, this whole shift today, I don't know if y'all know this or not, but we've got to go to a protest tonight. And I hope it doesn't turn like every protest has throughout this country. I'm afraid that if we don't do something, that we're gonna have a mass exodus.
Well, that's what we're saying. If we did 335, which would be half the number, I think, for the raises right now. With the idea that we evaluate it again 4, 6 months, whatever number we need into it to see how the 10-care costs and everything else are coming along. And we can, we'll honestly tell employees, look, we're doing half of it right now. If we can do the other half, we will.
In other words,
It's-
Chief, what he's saying.
And I don't mind to back pay it, Chris. We've done that with our teachers. We back paid them. I mean, if it's there in their budget, let's agree to back pay it.
I think that is fiscally responsible, and that's the least I could ask for at this time. I just appreciate you all giving me an opportunity to say.
Keep in mind, we can, I have a question first. On the PPE, are we still not getting, we get team and FEMA?
We're getting all we can. We're stockpiling from TEMA. FEMA is literally nothing. But TEMA's doing a pretty good job, but all we're getting from them is gloves, gowns, and face masks, and every once in a while some hand sanitizer. But all the other stuff that has to be carried on ambulance. The state dictates all this stuff, so every drug, all that stuff is not coming from TEMA.
That is my
Your
question.
IV solutions and stuff.
What I was gonna say is, keep in mind, and Dave and I just talked about this again, is we could pass a number, okay? Whatever that number is, whether it's half, whether it's 675, whether it's whatever. If we have to come, if we get a resurgence back in the fall or in August, if something changes, we can meet again next month and change it. We can amend it any month we want to.
The
Yeah.
states kind of emphasize everybody, and we do it here, because a lot of counties don't. They don't think that some of the counties understand you can amend your budgets. You can amend your budgets anytime, any direction, as long as you have the reserves. The question is, right now, probably our number one priority is get a number where Greg, 'cause especially Greg's been the one collecting, is comfortable with what the total's gonna be. He's saying 6 or 8, but he needs to back out what he thinks is reasonable for the nursing home issues. They may or may not come back, but there's a probability, people, and there's probably some people scared to ride ambulances or even go to the hospital right now. So if we're talking, we increase it by $1 million, but we drop another 780 back, then we're gonna be short. But if we're increasing it by 1.2 and dropping back 300,000, then there's tons, there's a lot of money, but that's something that Greg right now is gonna have to come up with a good estimate. My gut feeling is we're not gonna pick it all up. I could be wrong just by what I've seen.
But you may be right, Dave, but let's talk about the overall view. These counties are struggling, and we're in really good shape compared to a lot of them. They are not gonna be giving raises, I can tell you that. If we can give the chief a little bit, most of these people, they're not gonna be, unless there's people leaving, they're not gonna be hiring more people. So we could stabilize it, and that's what he's trying to do. And then later on, to take a conservative approach, and I think you mentioned this, Paul, later on, if things got brighter, then we could give them some additional money.
Chief, what do you feel like is an accurate estimate for what you'll bring in for TennCare? I know you said the numbers could range from, 800, I think you said, to 1.2 million. Where do you feel really comfortable saying that increase would be?
Forecasting.
Yes.
In this climate.
Yes, in this climate.
In this climate, forecasting for fiscal year 2021, I would say 450 would be our normal rate, and then that would double. So we would go from 450 to 900. So I think we will have no problem bringing in 900,000 on TennCare revenues.
So an
Which would be-
additional
Which would be
450.
600,000, which would double to 1,200,000 had we not, or 1.2 million, had this not been.
About a 450 increase.
Then I say we do
Let me ask you the
450 and
the
reevaluate.
The other big question though, on your base,
Right, Liz.
That's
how
what
much you
I
think we'll lose off your existing base number up here? Because right now we're talking picking up, do you think 450 or 450? So if you're talking picking up 450, how much do we think we'll have to net off of the base again? What we had from last year?
Let me answer the question this way. The doctor's appointments are coming back. Our call volume, what we have seen the most significant drop in is the drug seekers. The people who call 911 and go to the hospital because they need more Lortabs and everything else, because they are significantly more afraid of catching the Rona than they are of being out of their Lortabs. They didn't have insurance and they didn't pay anyway. So even though our call volume has decreased, we have not seen as large of a drop in our revenue. And that's because of that. And even our psych patients, they've realized, we had a poor fella 2 weeks ago that was elderly, and he fell in his yard and he broke his femur in half. And he begged us, he said, can you all repair this here and not take me to the hospital? Because of that field. We was like, no, we can't. We don't have x-ray, we can't put a cast on you here in the field. But David, to answer your questions, what they're telling us is this fall and into spring of 2021, our call volume is gonna be higher than it was. Because everybody that had corona is experiencing side effects that they predict to come 6 months later. Lung problems and stroke problems and things like
Would
that.
everybody be
We're thinking
comfortable, I was gonna say, would everybody be comfortable if we do 400,000 for the salaries with the idea that each month at emergency services, they report their call volume, he also kicks in, whatever the monetary difference might be in the collectability of everything. So that way, we'll get it every month there, and I can turn around and bring it back to budget.
It's good.
I feel
So
good
we're
with
saying
that.
we're gonna bring revenues up 400,000? And you're
And then
gonna,
we'll look at every month, so that way we kind of keep track of it.
so is the 400,000 only for paramedics and EMTs raises, is that what you're gonna say?
Paramedics, EMTs, and is there anybody else that's in
The thing is, we're gonna have to amend the existing budget really quick, because we gotta get it.
I know.
We gotta get it in the newspaper. We're
But
not
you're gonna give the chief the discretion
Yeah.
Yeah.
to choose
Yeah,
what he
that's what
needs
we're saying.
to
What he needs to
right?
do.
Yes, and I can tell you this, every proposal that's on there, there's not any raise in there for me.
Why?
It's not about me, it's in.
That wasn't my question. So we're gonna say 400 plus whatever his medical drugs went up is gonna be his bottom line.
Yeah.
But he needs to get back to us to work with us.
65,000.
So it should be
is what I need to raise the
465,000.
Drugs and medical supplies.
Okay.
line.
So we're saying 465.
465.
Minus whatever his insurance may went down plus what it went up. So we'll give him we'll work with him. Hopefully tomorrow evening and get that done, because we gotta get it to the newspaper.
Does that, and sincerely, does that get to where we hopefully don't lose anybody else?
At this point, and due to the climate that we're in, and I recognize that, I think this is a wonderful gesture by you all, and I think it's the county showing these non-essential, essential workers. The state doesn't consider EMS essential. That's gonna be on the legislation next year.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And also, just for all of us, as other people come forward, this is a pay increase, but it's also because it's still a zero fund because there's a revenue increase from those.
Right.
that-
But it's only paramedics in the.
Right, and that's, and,
Not just one person.
Yeah, sure.
yeah, that way we can, because there are other people that have left their pay increases in there, and we'll try and show that they have, that it will also be zero, but it's not the same situation.
Chief,
I
I
want
think,
to kind of put that in the minutes, so we're good.
I think something that needs to be said is, especially with this commission, looking back over the past 4 years and forward, we've been pretty strict on not adjusting things throughout the year. We kind of do our budget and we're like, come back at budget time. Obviously, with the climate that we're in now, we're adjusting that a little bit. So I would just ask that when you do, talk and say this is where we're going, that is also addressed, because I don't want it to come across as, oh, they're making a promise that they're going to relook at it in 3 months, but we know that commission, they don't adjust. It's because I don't want them to fear that we're not going to do it and then go looking elsewhere. I think under this climate that we're in, the commission is in agreement that we do want to look at this. It's not like how we typically budget.
That's a really good point.
And so,
Because
We
we have
will
been
communicate
adding
that
that
to
before.
them.
Thank you.
And, I just want to say this is aside from the budget, but I have never been more proud to represent a county government, because our people, you all have done a phenomenal job of taking care of it through this time, because it's been scary, because there's a lot of people that we have not had one single person refuse to take a call or refuse to come to work during this pandemic, when they had children at home and they were scared that they were going to take the coronavirus home to them, or they were taking care of their elderly parent. But we were able to do some things by, buy better masks that had zero risk for cross-contamination. And the county stepped up, and David and Leah and Anthony and all you all that helped get that hotel to where they could quarantine after their shift and not worry about taking it home. That's been big. And on behalf of them, I thank you, because that has helped us stop the hemorrhage of some people too, because they realized that, you've heard the saying, no one cares how much you know until they know how much you care. I think that we've displayed to our employees during this time that Sumner County cares for their employees. And I want to say thank you for that.
Chris, can we get a clarification to make sure that Greg's okay with the numbers too? We got 7,829,890 in the budget. Greg thinks it's gonna go back to normal, and I think mine is reasonable estimate last year if there wouldn't have been a coronavirus. Plus, the budget got a little later too, kind of slowed us down.
Absolutely.
Gotta remember that slows us down because he's bringing more revenue. But he thinks the 7,829, 890 plus the 400 is reasonable. That'll be that plus 400 more. And then the other thing is.
465.
Yeah.
No, 400 revenue. It's 400 revenue.
Yeah.
And then on the other thing is, when we give him credit for his insurance and his longevity like everybody else, his overall bottom number can be up 465, 65 for medical, 400 for everything needed for his paramedic and EMTs, you guys are good with that. That way we can have people work with him. Hopefully Wednesday evening we'll get you back out.
Also, one caveat that I want to clarify, in September, we have to go out for bid for our ambulance revenue billing company. And that gives us an opportunity. The climate has changed in that market over the last 2 years as well. So people are able to negotiate better rates. So there's an opportunity to capture some more revenue there.
Would you just update us that as well through Emergency Services, and then Chris can also update that number to us as budget as we're looking to make adjustments?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Glad to.
Appreciate all you do.
Thank you all.
Thank you, guys.
Thank y'all very much.
Hey, Greg, are you still good with the TennCare reimbursement at 280, because that's what was in there last year? That's pretty close to what you're tracking right
The 10-Q reimbursement rate?
now. Yeah, which is in addition to that.
You're talking about the kicker payment?
Yes, it's like 280.
Yeah.
So it's pretty, because it's actually gonna bring in about 306 this year, but I left 280. So if we left it at 280, you did your 7.8 plus your 4, you're good with that.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it, Greg.
David, when we go to fixing those spreadsheets today to send them back over, so that 400 is in the salaries line, it doesn't have to be figured in the insurance line. Is that what you said?
No, what we're
Or
saying
does it need to
is,
be
if
on
your
the-
insurance goes up because people change their type, then we give you credit for it. If it goes down, then we minus it off your credit, so and Amanda and them can probably at lunch, or when we have a few minutes, we'll email you what we're looking at over here and show you.
Because it has to be published, and there's a tight
I
deadline.
get yelled at. I
Why
don't
don't
get yelled at.
why don't me and Amanda call you and Greg around whenever they go to lunch, at the end of lunch, if you guys are available, and we'll talk about what they're looking at. They're talking about 465, because they're giving everybody credit for longevity increases and benefits. And in insurance, if it goes up because of changes, they're giving you credit, but if it goes down, they're taking your credit away. So if it went down because people went to sleep. So that way we can get you a hard number there.
Thank y'all. Hey, Jay, this got a look good looking shirt on.
Hey, his nickname today is Seafoam.
I caught so much, and then he said, "What are you still working on that?"
Stand there.
Y'all like it, John?
Come to the stand.
We're deducting for that.
John, come on up here. We'll start without Justin.
I just need to stand. I can't sit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm fine. I just gotta stand. I can't sit for long periods.
Mr. Isabel was one of the people.
She used to be.
Was one of the people that let us know last year that they were gonna have an increase, and it was, for some software he found that we're pretty excited about, because in the long run, it's gonna stop him from having to hire 1.5 FTE. So it's gonna clean up some different work and some other things. So he was good enough to let us know early on, so that's when we weren't gonna count against him. Mr. Isabel, you have the floor, sir.
Yeah, I had a couple of big increases in my budget. But I want to talk about a couple real quick things. Kind of let you know where we are with property assessment in Sumner County. This year, we've seen an increase of about 1,774 parcels. And that's new lots. So you got houses coming in behind that. Our appraised value has increased by $598 million to over, well, it's just under $24 billion in Sumner County. Assessed value at $6.24 billion. And this year in raw revenue, and I know David does his collectability factors and everything, but in raw revenue is just under $4 million added to the rolls this year. So I think that's pretty significant. It's about a 3%, just under a 3% increase, which we're pleased with. It's about to kill us, but we're keeping up with it. So everything's going good there. And there's something else that's pretty significant that I want to talk to you about. I was talking to Mayor Holt about this. Years ago, we were under what we call a cost share, we're still under the cost share program with the cities. The cities are required to pay part of the reappraisal cost each year of the reappraisal. So every year, they contribute a portion. And we send that bill out, we send it to the department in May, and they send it out in June, and collect those monies. Well, all of that was predicated on the grant program that we got from reappraisal with the state. Well, years ago, they cut that when the state went through their revenue issues. One of the first things to go was the grants to the counties. So we lost that. Well, we kept our budget separate over the years, and you'll see that my budget is now one budget combined. And what we're doing is we're spreading those entire costs over all the cities, rather than just having a separate assessment budget where the county assumes 100% of that, and then a reappraisal budget where the county does the cost share with the cities. The impact, this year, we billed out the cities $494,000. So out of my budget, $494,000 came back to the county. Next year, by us combining that and making it more realistic, we're going to increase that to $1 million. So we're basically bringing in another $600,000 that the cities are going to assume as part of their reappraisal cost. So between the $3.9 million and the $600,000, we hope that we can get the increases that we need. The software that we're talking about is software that we're going to be working with Cindy Briley in the deeds office. It streamlines all of our deeds processing, which basically will free up a person. And that person can move on to do other things within the office. And they'll still have to do some deeds work, but their workload will be significantly lower. The only thing I can tell you that, even with this program with our parcel count, we're now short a person. We're covering that with this, but eventually we're going to have to look at two things. We're going to have to look at vehicles. We're going to need a vehicle, and I know this year's not it. And then also we're probably going to need at least a part-time person to help out in the field with the field men. Hendersonville and our Gallatin people can barely keep up. They're putting houses on, just quicker. We just can't keep up.
Can we make sure, and we just want to get it in the minutes, because, again, we talk about everybody wanting to do pre-planning. We've asked for the 5-year operational, 20-year capital. So what kind of vehicle are we talking, so we can kind of have an idea for next year?
Well, there would just be a truck, just a simple truck. I think I put in $25,000 in the 5-year plan, and we cut that obviously this year. We went in and fixed one of the trucks, so we spent some money. Fortunately, with travel down, my travel budget didn't get spent very much, so I was able to invest in the vehicles and
But we
bring
will have to
those
get
up.
you one next year.
So we're good. Other than that, that's really about it.
The change in Mr. Isabel combining those two budgets brought in additional $293,183. Is what we're estimating next year, which is usually pretty small.
What was the,
Mr. Holt?
the reason for that?
There used to be a separation because we got a reappraisal grant, so we separated the assessor's budget from reappraisal. Well, the grant disappeared, so there's no longer any legal or logistical, any reason to separate those and not bill the cities for their share. So he's combined them back together, billed the cities for their full share, which should have been done.
And the cities were really receptive about
I was
that
gonna
too.
say,
from
how
what
the
I
cities
understand.
feel
They were
about
excited about that.
I've got some emails.
Excited?
No, they're not excited.
I tell you,
Excited or excited?
I only received one.
Excited, not in a good way.
Apparently, they assumed that the bill came from David, so they called David.
They called me, so I just told them it's just because of the reappraisal grant disappeared.
But, and
It's
by
what it
law,
is.
cities can do their own reappraisal, but there's just absolutely no way they can do it for what they pay for us to do it for them. So it is a good deal for the cities.
And we're gonna put his summary sheet at the top, which will kind of summarize what he has increased. As you pointed out, there's $37,000 for the software. There's $11,900 for audit services, for personal property, and I think there's $400 for postal charges, and then decrease some otherwise. So it made a total increase of $43,032.
And again, Mr. Isbell, we appreciate you letting us know that throughout the year that it was coming. So, Mr. Holmes?
I just wanted to compliment John. You know, this year we had a challenging year. The state was trying to make some changes to commercial property. If that had happened, thanks to John's help, Will, the Assessor Association, County Mayor Association, we lobbied pretty hard for that not to happen. They'd have done that, what that would have done, would have massively shifted the property tax to residential owners. We would have gotten a lot of pushback for that, and that was stopped, thanks to John, Will, a lot of help, and us working together. That was a big, big deal, and I appreciate his hard work.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Isbell? Mr. Isbell, if you don't have anything, we're done. And so thank you, sir.
Thank you
We know
very
next
much.
year- We know next year you need a car and a half part-time person. Or
Hey,
truck.
John, just out of curiosity, it's unimportant, the truck, is that just a replacehold or is that a new person?
No, that was a replacement note.
Yeah, thought so.
Yeah.
And I'm going on a final note. I
He
think
brought it up before, but
Yeah.
kind of just
just
this
a
year.
point of personal privilege. I want to leave this right here. We've got a golf tournament coming up June 29th for, it's our police memorial golf tournament to honor the 5 fallen officers in Hendersonville. Those that don't know, I'm involved with the Citizen Police Academy and the president this year, so we're doing that to establish a scholarship and also to do some work on horse barn. So,
Did you want us to repeat that during the main county commission meeting this month for you? Or will it be in time?
tournament's June 29th. I mean, I'll take
That's
theirs
the
up to
meeting's
June
not till that
28th.
night.
Yeah, never mind.
But,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, but, you know, you're welcome to take a flyer and share it with a golfer. If anybody wants to put a team in, love to have you. It's gonna be a great day of golf.
John,
A lot of fun. Yes, sir.
if there's a Facebook link to that information, just send it to all of us. We'll
Okay.
share it all the way around.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'll do that, thank you.
We'll bring it up at on the 15th for the joint meeting, so.
Absolutely.
Thank you,
very
Mr.
much.
Thank you.
All right, so John's is set. Next one is Mr. Widener. Go ahead, David, you want to start?
The summary sheet for Mr.
Oh, where?
Go back to the summary sheet just a minute. Hold on.
Manny, you're doing a fantastic job being back this year.
Right here gives you, the details gives you the detail of the percentage, which is 150,044.1%. It has a 3% salary, a new position, and the benefits, I think 2 new positions, and a reduction in non-salary of 6168. So that kind of gives you a synopsis of that budget too.
Go ahead, buddy.
Oh, it's kind of like asking my wife, can I buy a new tractor? She tells me what I can do. You guys clearly know what I can and can't do. You know what I presented, and I'm at the mercy of you and everything going on, obviously. My big issue that I've had, and you've really helped me out on this COVID deal, was the personnel. And that's what's really kind of, you know, I think we do okay. I think we could do a lot better if my staffing levels were similar to some other EMAs, OEMs across the state. So that's my biggest concern. We're pretty good in a lot of areas. That's our biggest problem, if you will. And our performance level shows that on day-to-day operations.
The extra person
Our
we got,
daily
yeah.
planning. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean.
No, on our planning, on plans that we need to write, upgrade, work with other agencies. We've got a meeting at 1 today with Gallup meeting and the Sheriff's Office on this plan march. That's, part of what we do on the logistical side. And quite honestly, we do somewhere around $100,000 worth of grant, a little over $100,000 worth of grant work a year. I'm not saying we could do a lot more because, that has kind of trended down since 2001. But as we've done that, we've kind of built our PPE supplies up, so we were able, on this COVID deal, to have more PPE on the shelf than we generally would have. And now law enforcement agencies are asking us for air purifying respirators, gas masks. And I really don't know that I want to push everything out, but I don't want to leave anybody hanging. So we're going to talk about that today when we meet with the Sheriff's Office of Gallup PD. So there's a lot of things going on with us, and there's some things that we do that aren't like other emergency management agencies across the state in regards to what we do on a daily basis. But the basis of our organization is planning, preparedness, response and recovery. And personnel is a big issue there.
Let's just say right now, like I know, on the chance that we have a second surge, Ken has already started kind of squirreling away a bunch of PPE in case things pop up during the flu season this fall, even if it's not COVID, it's something else. So they're kind of planning ahead, and we've said throughout that at some point, when we have to start buying PPE for every office, we were gonna have it go through his office. So that way it was kind of a clearinghouse and we had some control over how much people got and what was stored. The person you brought on full-time during COVID, how long you got the money to pay for them for this year?
I'll have to look at the numbers. We had spent about 35,000 of that 60. I don't think it'll last a whole lot longer. I mean, it's going to be okay because we're not in that overtime phase that we were in, because overtime obviously really.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. How much above will you have to keep him on full-time for the rest of this year?
I think we're okay for this budget year. We're okay with this, yes, we should go there.
Okay.
We got nothing to do with June 30.
All right.
Yeah.
And then that's the one you were asking for next year.
Yeah. Yeah, and to explain that, I mean, I know we've got procedures for hiring, but my deputy director is the battalion chief of Gallatin Fire, and I really try to keep it kind of quiet, because I don't want Gallatin Fire saying, hey, if you're thinking about going to Gallatin, I don't think you would have any problems, but that's something I don't just want to throw out there and create any issues for him, you know, in case this doesn't work out, and I know this COVID has really put a dent in what your staff does, David, and what you guys do. But my fear is losing him either to pressure from them or whatever. So, you know, that's my biggest issue is personnel. Otherwise, we're doing pretty good.
Here's what I was gonna suggest on that one. We don't really have the money right now to do it, but we're saying we're gonna evaluate it. I would like to look at, you know, if we say 3 months out, 4 months out, whatever it is, whenever we start doing it, looking at being one of the priorities being getting him another person to help with what's been going on so that we can carry. I mean, like I said, I know we don't have it right now, but 3 months from now, if the numbers look better, that would be one where I'd like to, just as a budget committee, kind of make the commitment, that if everybody's comfortable with that.
Keep the same revisit 300.
Yeah.
She wants to see this hours back to last year.
Yeah, for right now, but then that's one, and kind of have an idea how much for that person, and I mean, like, what the real numbers would be when you come over here, since I know he's gonna be leaving.
What's that big against budget? I think it's gonna be.
And then there's some PPE stuff, obviously, that'll come up.
On the PPE, I really try to do that through grant work. And if I do a grant that's.
No, I'm saying at some point, like right now, Lori's got 140,000 that we had to buy PPE for the November, or for the August
Yep.
election. But we're gonna try and, once things get established and we know how much each office needs and everything else, increasing your budget by that so that
Yeah.
that way you know.
And like right now, while we can get the PPE through the state because they're getting reimbursed for it, like I've told the sheriff, every Monday submit a request and we put the request in and we go to Lebanon and get a trailer load of gloves and PPE for the jail. So I told him, use what you need to use, but start stockpiling in the jail, which I think is really gonna help.
If we remove all those increases, it actually makes Ken the negative 61 from last year. So do we want to leave that at 6180 negative, or do we want to put something for the PPE?
Yeah, we leave it at 0. We don't need to take.
So let's go over to his non-salary, because you're probably tight on that anyway, aren't you, Ken? Well, you cut your non-salary line out,
I'm okay on those. But we see, and the way I do my budget, I try not to spend things down, so if we get in a pinch, we can move things around until towards the end of the budget, because I know you don't want me coming back asking for money.
Do we want to leave that 6,100 just in your budget with the idea that you can put that towards the full-time person? So that way when we, you know, it's that much less we have to find for you in 2 or 3 months, whatever it is.
Sure.
Or we just leave it out for now?
Yeah, well, we can just leave it in his budget, the 6,100 in his budget. Yeah, we'll just put it in there as just a.
Well, if we do that, we'll have matching benefits and we'll have to have conditions.
Okay.
That's why I say put it in miscellaneous, or just leave it down 60.
Put it in miscellaneous.
And I have made,
Miscellaneous then.
I have made a verbal request for more EMPG money. David's very familiar with EMPG money. I've done a verbal request that if any additional EMPG money comes available, then we can use that for salary.
Okay, and David, said they'll put it in miscellaneous if you're comfortable with
Yeah,
that.
miscellaneous line.
Okay, so that way you'll know where the money
Put it
is.
in other equipment, maybe, I think it's just, every year he moves money in other equipment, so, that bottom line there, you look at historically, he has money, he has money. So his negative was 6301.
Hopefully that way you'll be able to do your posting and everything.
Every year he has to, bring it on to get that up. 61.
You won't have to wait on it. Does anybody have any questions for Kim while we're sitting in here? Even random questions?
Shut
Shut it. Shut it. You know what you're talking about?
What's the weather for?
That's what?
What's the weather for?
It's good right now, so some people in the room should be okay.
We need to look at his capital, the range, because that was something supposed to be.
Okay.
You got a capital project.
You know what? Just forget it. Take all his out.
Oh, do we
Just
want- do
give
we
him
want-
an increase in
do we wanna talk
Swiftwater
about
Rescue.
phone call one day?
Right now, what we were saying, go over the appropriations, capital projects have got less than $2 million in there. And high.
I do have a question about capital projects, Beth. Can I not see all the funds for the communication system in my budget? I don't think I can, because I'm showing like 547,000 in it. That's a lot lower than it should be. But I don't know if I can see, I'll talk to you about that later.
And high this first call, so.
Hey Ken, what are y'all thinking about that march today?
6, 7 years ahead. There you go.
On a positive note, Ken did say that the one place in the county that the radios never worked before, they went out, and that was in a car radio.
Yeah, for you, those of you that, the one thing that the sheriff's office tells me every time we talk about radios is Sugar Grove Tavern. All right, 31E north of Westmoreland, Sugar Grove Tavern. And we used to have to do bar checks there when I worked at the sheriff's office. We do bar checks there, and when we get about halfway down 31E, we check out on the mobile radio and say, we can't talk on radio, so either send the troops in 20 minutes or we'll talk to you. So when the system is up and operating now, they went to Sugar Grove Tavern, you know where it is, and talked from a portable
I've been to ask him what it is.
in a car.
Shocker.
Yeah,
I've been in there.
Ken on the Capitol for.
You might have been on the call there.
What do you
For
think?
him.
I'll never go back. If you want to know what those things are, Bill Taylor made me walk.
It's on
There you
the,
go.
rotating the old stock out.
Okay.
Yeah. It's 2 deals.
It's almost an alley.
Yeah, it's, you can throw a rock out and count it.
Been by it a lot. I turn around in alley
Ken, is that what we need to do this year, or will that mess it up really bad? I know you rotate them every so often. Is that gonna mess us up if we hold off this year on that capital or not?
No, it's not gonna blow me up on that.
Okay.
If you'll give me a person, I'll give you everything.
The 55 says, the 55 was the night vision again, so you didn't.
That was, and there's still 3,000 in that we didn't use them go back in, so that was we
But
didn't use
there's
the full amount,
still
that
more
was the night vision that was bought, that was not a budget item last year.
So you want to change that to 52 and then change that night vision to 3 as a carryover. Change that to 3.
It can go back, I won't.
Oh, you won't need it?
No, because you gave me so much money and we didn't need that much money, so it'll go
Oh,
back.
it hit 0 on mine, because
Yeah.
that's night vision. And then the other was one Chris was asking about the other city road too. Oh, yeah, and then what's the 12? There's other equipment for 12.5 last year and this year.
Some of is that the medical pro?
Say it again, sorry.
The 12.5, is that some of the medical?
No, that's, Code Red. That's
Oh, okay.
our calling system.
Is that an annual call?
Yeah, that's that one. Huh?
That's going to have to be moved over to the general fund.
Okay.
No, if there was 12.5 no, that was rescue equipment. That was extrication equipment for last year. I'm sorry. I didn't know you looked at
Is
that.
it zeroed out since you bought it last year?
Yeah, it's been, got POs on
Bless
it.
you.
Okay, zeroed out now too, it looks like.
All right.
So go over there, go over to the capital project summary and let's see what it looks like. Yeah, we're still about 1.7, about 2.
Okay, so we're good. Thank you, brother.
All right.
So, and like I said, kind of have that posting with an idea of how much we need and everything else, so that way in 3 months, if we can do it, we will.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And you kind of eBay about a third of the lights off that truck, you could get person.
Always worry about Paul.
Does anybody need a
Get out
break?
there,
Everybody
I'll
okay?
see
And
you.
like we said before, we won't take a set break, so if you need to go to the restroom, make a phone call or whatever, just excuse yourself out, because it's not really a quorum issue, so. All right,
You ready for
Mr.
the
Trustee's next.
yep, listen, oh.
Well, the reason I'm here is all the assessor's fault. His preliminary numbers are, he's gonna have an additional 1,300 parcels in the tax roll this year, so I need a little extra bills to post. So I asked an additional 1,500 to cover the printing and postage.
I think we're good. Does anybody have any questions?
She's up 3 because 1,500 for the printage and postage, and then her, what's the meeting you
Oh,
go
the
to?
Yeah.
annual trustee conference that was supposed to be in May was canceled and they moved it to August, so I just wanted 1,500 moved from this year's
Just a
budget.
line change.
So you're gonna, wait, she's gonna be 3,000 more next year, but there'll be a $1,500 savings in this year, because they moved the actual travel.
To cover that cost that got moved to the next fiscal year.
So she's really negative over the 2-year period, $1,500. No
It's-
problem.
Anybody got anything else? Thank you, ma'am. You're good. Appreciate
Easy.
it.
I like something easy.
Well, I wish everybody was like her.
And the next
Do we
one,
wait for you to catch up, man?
the next one is Portland Library, and it has a negative, but it does have a cost salary increase, which could be the, I said no salary increase.
Go ahead, man.
Well, I'm just moving money around. One of our custodial workers who is on staff cut her time in half, so she's only 5 hours a week instead of 10. So I had the extra money and I wanted to give it to my assistant director. It doesn't increase my budget, it's actually a little less than past year.
Did you run it by the library board yet?
No,
Okay.
we haven't met.
Well, and the only reason I say that is, they, even though everybody does come to us for a budget, they have kind of say as far as salaries and everything else, so I would ask before we do anything like that, that you make sure that the library board is in agreement, because you're altering the scale of pay for all the other libraries. So, but even though I understand that you do have some money available, that's one, again, that we try not to do any of those, especially when you've got 5 or 6 libraries, so that kind of makes a difference.
I agree, yeah, I think it's, to keep that equity, it
Yeah,
just
I
creates
just-
an imbalance, especially when we're doing no salary increases
Yeah.
anywhere in the county. It would be,
So if we were
Generally
to
speaking.
move that raise.
Yeah, please.
Do you know when the library board is expected to meet again?
Not this coming month, but the next month. They were supposed to have met this month, May, but
Okay.
they didn't, so I haven't really spoken to him.
But yes,
Mr. Chairman, you may
Yes.
want clerk to talk to the chairman of the library board and get an okay or not okay.
And that's what we just.
I think the library board's been very reluctant to meet because of the current conditions. And in fact, I want to thank her head librarians for opening the library to be open June 1st. And they've worked with me and put safeguards in place and really worked well. And that was not easy because we've had some employees that just quit, basically. They're working hard.
What I was gonna say is if you wanna let all the employees know too, one of the things we've said is that we've never been one to change our budget once we do it, but we obviously can. And we're letting everybody know that as the year goes on and we get better and better models for revenue and things like that, that we are certainly hoping to be able to do some type of COLA cost limit for everybody that's midway through the year, if not soon. So we're just kind of, as it comes along, we want everybody to understand that we're not just, it's not just, hey, we're not doing anything for this year. If the if the economy allows us to, we're certainly going to. But yeah, if you would please check the library board on that one, just because it might cause a little bit of pressure somewhere else.
Okay. So will the, money just be the same then? as last year?
Unless you all tell us to increase your budget, she
No,
got it from other.
I'm not increasing anything, it's actually.
You just want us to cut the raise, or you just want, is she cut?
Why don't
My payroll is
Yeah.
2,000 less than last year, and
Yeah, what's the
my
first
whole
one?
budget is like 5.
Yeah, in case she hires somebody, in case she ends up getting another janitor for the other 5 hours, or,
How much is her budget?
yeah.
Might check with your, board chairman. I mean, maybe even today, maybe they can have a meeting on Zoom, because on paper, what,
Is that janitorial?
some of the other libraries might think we're giving a pay raise to the assistant director, even though it might not be the money.
Will you not be filling that position back, the janitorial one?
Her, I have 2 on staff, and one of them, literally, her job was to vacuum for 10 hours a week. And, no, it does not take 10 hours to vacuum.
Okay, so that position has been
For
eliminated.
instance, we just cut.
No,
two for
she's
that.
still there. I
She's like
cut it to
janitorial.
5, and she still
she
wanted to
just-
stay
she
on,
don't-
Okay.
honestly.
But that's what I mean, the additional 5 hours has been eliminated.
The money is just sitting there. We
Yeah,
had
yeah,
another
yeah.
part-time person.
Right,
Quit through
yes.
half a year also,
That sounds
because she
like-
went back to school.
Sounds like a good volunteer for the commissioner report.
He can vacuum.
Larry Hinton would like it.
Boy, I was quick, Mr. Govinda.
I'll let him know.
We just added 2 million to the janitor.
He likes the library.
Yes.
Yeah, well, she requested, because you requested it. So they just moved the 2,000 back to the janitor.
And
Okay,
that's
so-
Late.
Okay.
All right.
Just work through the library board, you understand what we're saying?
Okay,
So
so
we'll leave the.
who would I contact once I speak to the library board?
Who's the,
Jim Young.
Jim Young.
oh, contact Mr. Young and then you can get back with.
I don't really have any contact with him.
You can call my office, not
Okay.
plan, so.
Thank you, sir.
That's,
Okay.
that's fine.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I just don't feel like as a committee, we can do that because
And then she's
everyone's
fairly-
gonna be in there.
Well, I think she's got
If you're cutting raises and pushing back, you really want to put that 2 back, or put?
Yeah, I think we said back then, you probably ought to, and when she came through budget last time, I think we mentioned you probably ought to say something extra at some point.
Yeah, I think we gotta take it out of the budget because even if you leave it in there,
This is my thought, when you added the 2 back in, just like Ken's added 6. We right now got downward revenue, and we're adding back to make them to 0 last year. So
Okay, we'll just take the 2 out there.
Yeah, that's what I'm
And also, and especially because I forgot about that, we did talk to her before and told her she can go see Mr. Young, and she hasn't done that yet, so.
Well, she told, my understanding, she told Mr. Young.
Minus, minus the 2,000.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that conversation, so she can still, she needs it, she can go see Mr. Young.
yeah, agreed. Because we're not about to start.
We gotta be careful. remember that-
Unbalance of that.
Does that look the same?
Yeah, but the
It'll come back up. At some
Oh,
point,
yeah.
it's
Oh,
gonna come
yeah.
back up.
Oh, I'm fine.
You did it here, let's do it for our now, all,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I get she doesn't want to work with Mr.
One
Young.
dropped off.
yeah.
You guys are clerking
I
now.
did.
How
I think Judge
I don't know, brother.
And that's kind of, that was our
We
point.
can't get reliant on Jim Young, we got some issues.
Okay, you're just getting
Do
that.
it for her.
Yeah.
Okay, good idea, just checking.
Yes,
Didn't want you to be too disappointed.
I'll wait.
No.
You go to the summary page.
Mark,
Oh, Judge
we got
Howard?
some
Is Judge Howard?
phone calls
Yes.
this morning.
Sorry, Judge Howard.
That's
All right.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, he's on.
My impression, really, I mean, we submitted one, and y'all had asked for 0 increase, and we went back and basically just did what we did last year. But really, the thing that I want to mention is that, obviously, many of you know we're moving, and we just got hit with something late last week that is going to potentially cause us to have to spend some money. We have, but it's after the sort of moratorium on spending has kicked in. We found out that Corner Music and moving our audio system, we had originally a bid, they increased the bid, so it's now over what we can do without being bid, is what we heard from Kim. And then we have some equipment that we can't use anymore because they said that the equipment moving from Master Bagley's courtroom to the new courthouse won't work
because we have to run wires across the floor as opposed to doing the wireless system like in mine. So just be aware that we may be requesting to be able to spend some money post June 1st to cover for that, but also just begs the question, and frankly, I don't know. So since we're being told that we're going to have to bid a new company to move and or install, but we start moving next week.
Is this, what did you say that was for audio?
Yeah, it's our audio system. It's the microphones and not the recording stuff because that's separate, but it's the amplification system for mics, and particularly for Master Bailey's Core.
Is it gonna be over $10,000? It's all equipment.
No, it's $9,686.
Hey, we'll take close all day long.
So it's right below 10, so it won't have to be bid.
Okay, all right.
If it's below 10, but they got their quotes on
It is, well, we only had one because Corner Music was the one, Corner Audio and Video is the one who had installed it the first time.
Oh, okay.
Originally, they had bid lower, then they said, oh yeah, and looking at your stuff, it's not gonna work.
it. Do you have the money this year for it?
Yeah, I think we actually
Get a
did.
PO,
Yeah.
or would you have to do transfer?
Mayor Holt, is there any way that
I don't
Dennis?
know. I know we believe, my board administrator says we have it.
Well, could just maybe look at stuff
Can
from the
we-
judge and see if there's, he might have a better idea.
Can we?
I think that would probably be a good idea,
Look
Judge
at that,
Howard,
Judge.
What's that?
is to ask, Ms. Perry.
Well, IT is actually coming over to take a look at it.
Yeah.
We did contact them to just to sort of see if they could give us a hand.
Yeah.
They haven't come yet, so, but I just wanted,
Can
since I was
we-
coming this morning, I wanted to.
Instead of messing with Judge Howard's budget this year or next year, 'cause any savings will go into general fund, which is being pounded anyway, and increasing next year is gonna help pound it. But if it's over $7,500, we can capitalize it. Could we put $10,000 over in the capital projects fund for the audio system for Judge Howard? Because it's capitalizable, and capital is a little easier to come by if we cut some stuff than it is in
It's
operation.
gonna be going to.
Judge, get with me if you don't mind.
Sure.
Well, I'll obviously be here, but this afternoon,
Yeah.
late this afternoon, get with me. Let's run those numbers
Okay,
and see
yeah.
where our budget is
Okay.
and see if I can run it through our budget first. I know we're expecting a couple more estimates in today, for a couple other things that we've gotta move,
Okay.
but let me see what we can finagle out of the existing budget that's already created, if everybody's okay with that,
Oh, yeah.
and then we'll go from there.
Not a problem. I just
Okay.
wanted to bring it to your
Yeah.
attention before I started going, I need money.
Yeah.
And if you do, we can.
And apparently Wiser left money on the table, so just saying. Just saying.
Yeah, and then he requested a
Elbow Dave
door.
out. Just,
Then he got his door, that was more.
Does anybody have anything else for the judge?
He sessions too, is that?
Yeah, I'm saying.
He's, the only thing he has is the amount for the lease for the transition space, which is something the commission approved last year, so it was actually a prior year approved amount.
Do you have anything else for us, sir?
No, thank y'all. I certainly appreciate it. I know that this has been a tough
I wouldn't
time
put that in.
for y'all, so I just want to give you my admiration for continuing working hard.
On behalf of the commission, we thank you and your office for doing such a good job of working with us in the transition space.
We're ready to rock and roll.
Yeah,
We're
you-
closing, we're shutting things down. Tomorrow's my last
Judge, you
day
could
of
have made
court.
that really, really bad, and we all appreciate
Well,
that.
there's no need to. There's no need to. We're all doing, the ultimate purpose of this is to make sure that the folks that come to my court, Master Begley's court, go into a good, safe place that's going to be workable for everybody. And I certainly want to invite all of y'all to come over. Now, we're moving next week, but please come over, and I'll be happy to give you a tour of the new facility. So
Yeah, I was gonna offer the
it's
same
pretty
thing
neat.
today or tomorrow, if anybody on the committee has an opportunity or a break in schedule, we can go look at it,
You can see
cause
my
it's
cubicle.
super, now, hush. You can see his big fancy courtroom.
That's right.
That's
When do you
temporary.
start, when do you reopen court over there?
15th. I have a full day trial set on next month, or on 15th.
I think their last day of court is July 5th, is that right?
My last day, actually, my case for this Friday came off because I moved it because I was told they're coming to get cameras out of the courthouse. So,
How could you forget that, buddy?
so that one's done. So my last day of court is actually tomorrow until the 15th.
Judge Howard's really been good to work with. In fact,
Yeah.
he first proposed having a service program over there and worked with me, and we're gonna send our custodians over there, pay them overtime. And And then we've got, something from the sheriff's office to spray that will de-germ and decontaminate everything after he moves in. That saves a lot of money, and so he's been very patient, very patient.
So, but I just want to thank y'all. Y'all really been really helpful through this process too. So, on behalf of my staff, we're ready to rock and roll.
Thanks.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thank y'all.
So you need to know the phone number for, audio?
If you've got one, we're certainly, I mean, we'll do whatever we need to do. So, all right, thank y'all.
Jimmy, read the summary.
We got something for you.
I do.
Jimmy, read the summary.
Yes, sir.
Chancery Court, what we have right now, it's the first one. The 0% budget was never submitted. They still have the original 3% COLA. If you look what he's presented, shows negative. However, anytime there's insurance changes, you don't hold it against the department. And anytime they have insurance changes that save them, you don't get credit. Same thing with longevity. So if we just for longevity insurance, he's up 12,000 some odd dollars.
No,
Which equates to the 3%. That equates to the 3% raise
Yeah,
for all the employees.
and the reason for that is Gina, who's been with us for 36 years, has gone part-time. She's gotten to the point where it's time to take care of parents. So she's gone to 2 days a week. So she was our highest paid employee, so we've made some adjustments. But we've also have more work to do. I've handed you these cards. We will be the 5th county in the state of Tennessee to have E5. We had planned to start it this week, but for some reason, the computers aren't working and I know that's shocking to you. We also found out that to pay the Tennessee Department of Revenue, they were gonna have their computers, and they spent millions on theirs. And theirs aren't working either, so we haven't been able to get month-end statements out until today. So we're working on those, and the state assured us that they'll have it ready next month, like they assured us they'd have it ready this month. So we're doing extra work on this E5. What that's going to entail is, I think it's going to be a safety thing for all the citizens of Sumner County and really Middle Tennessee, because we will be able to, the 15th is when we're going to start it this month, be able to push one button and you can file anything that you have to have someone bring into the courthouse. They won't have to come anymore. And with COVID, that's going to be a big plus. We anticipate having several hundred attorneys. Most of them will be from Nashville that will be taking advantage of this, but they won't have to come up here. They won't have to do everything. We're also doing many, many hearings on Zoom. So I can see there's going to be a time when you'll be able to get a divorce by filing it. We'll have a Zoom hearing. You won't even have to come into the courthouse. And
No fighting on Zoom.
we have 15 Zoom hearings set today that we're doing on probate. It's a big plus, and the Supreme Court is encouraging us to do it all the more. I do Zoom hearings for the initial hearings on child support and parenting plans, and it's worked out very well. The problem we have is I've got a camera for the judge on his. On the Wi-Fi, it's working well, but it doesn't work in my office where I was trying to do it. For some reason, unlike Mr. Widener, I don't have a door, and I'm probably never going to have a door, but it still doesn't come through. It's where I am. It used to be the jail, and it's real thick walls and rebar, and the Wi-Fi won't go through, so I've got to go down to a different area, which is an inconvenience, but no big deal. But we've learned to figure that in. IT came out and they reset everything, and it's working well everywhere except that one area.
2 years, count it down. You'll have great Wi-Fi. I promise.
Now, what this is also going to do, it's going to save us a lot of money in the future. And by that I mean a lot of money in the future, in that we won't have the storage problems that we have now. We're going to have, I'm saying this, and I feel like the little boy who's cried wolf, because I started on this in 2017. The administrative office of the court shut me down in 2017, said we don't have the bandwidth. I kept yelling and hollering, so they picked us in Williamson County, and by us I mean Sumner County Chancery, to be the go-to county as to how to do this for 89 of the other counties in the state. The other counties have their own server. We are wired into the state. So we're doing a lot of work. We have meetings this afternoon. We're doing extra work on this. What we decided to do when Gina left, as opposed to bringing in another person, I'm hoping that Gina, and I've got my fingers crossed, will be able to serve us because she's got 36 years of experience. We've never been written up by the state on anything. She handles all of the money. I don't know how she got her new Corvette after she retired, but, and of course she didn't. But she's done a super job, and we want to keep that knowledge there because she's still very young. But she has 2 jobs now, taking care of her family and taking care of us also. And she's doing a great job on both. Now, the 3%, and David, I didn't realize, you know, actually our budget's coming under 9,500 under. Because we're taking up health insurance, we've done some adjustments there. And we didn't put on another part-time person or another full-time employee. I'm saving that spot because if Gina leaves, I am gonna have to have another full-time employee. There's no way that I could do with the name that Gina does. So what I'm asking, because we are putting an extra burden, what we have done is Gina's full-time job, we have spread to 3 other of the employees, plus we've also got them doing e-filing. And that is why I am coming hand in hand to say, hey, we're doing extra work that's really gonna save the county money on the storage for years and years and years. It's gonna be the new way we're doing it. I'm anticipating that by the end of the year or the first part of next year, we're gonna be paperless and that we won't have to store all of that. Now, we may have to wait until we do get into the new courthouse because what you're gonna start seeing is you won't see attorneys come in with files and files and files. You'll see them come in with their laptop. They will plug into our great new Wi-Fi that we will have. And I do have to commend Mr. Holt. He got that Wi-Fi done, and it's a great plus for the attorneys because they don't have to do that in court anymore. They don't have to bring their files. They punch it in. With this e-filing that we have, they'll be able to punch it in from their home and see every single thing that has been filed. We have a system now through the state that's hardwired, and part of the problem we've had through COVID, we cannot work from home because the state won't let us get on the state computer. It's all hardwired, so it won't get broken into. It just doesn't work half the time. But they're updating that, they say, so we'll be in much better shape. And that's why we're requesting that with the extra work that all of us are doing, without adding another person, we're saving the county money. And as shown by this, we're not trying to be a non-team player, but whatever you tell us to do, we'll do, and we'll keep doing a good job and keep showing that Sumner County is a leader not only in e-filing, but in handling all of these things that we do in the Chancery Court. We're real busy this year too. Ms. Denon, how many, we're gonna have 2 tax sales this year?
Our goal.
Our goal is to have 2 tax sales. Until last year, we hadn't had a tax sale in 8 years. So that puts in extra work also for us. And Ms. Denon, you'll be glad to know we've already taken about 3,400 in taxes from the delinquent tax notices that went out on Friday. Right now in the courthouse, to get anything done, we've got everything locked down. And we're getting our exercise because we've gone down 4 flights of steps and up 4 flights to pay the taxes. If they have a credit card, we gotta do it twice because we gotta have them sign the receipt once we do it. But we're getting, these next 2 weeks, we'll be swamped with taxes and probate is always busy.
The calls started, I guess, Friday with people getting the summons.
Well, and that's good because we need to get that money in. Some of them didn't realize it. Most of them did, but they play this game where they do it to the last possible second. But they're starting to come in with money. We had a guy who came in with $1,700 cash yesterday. So,
Sir, we truly appreciate everything y'all doing, and I love the fact that, I remember 2 years ago when you were talking to us about the e-filing, and we were gonna be one of the leading counties to do it, and it's fantastic. Regrettably, this year is not a year we can do 3% raises, but what I was gonna tell you is, please let everybody know that before we'd always set a budget, and we kinda just stuck with it the whole year. Obviously, we are allowed to amend it, and what we've said is, as the revenue projections come in and David has new models, if we see an increase and we're able to give a COLA, we're going to. And if it's mid-year, it's mid-year, if it's later or earlier. But our intention is that as we see an increase in revenue coming back up, that we try and pass that on to the employees. Please let everybody know.
thank you very much.
But everything else, we can't tell you how much we appreciate the efficiency and everything else y'all are doing.
We're doing our best, and we should be able to turn in some money at the end of this year.
And also, and since you're keeping her part-time, we will leave that other part of her salary in your budget in in case she does. Hopefully she doesn't, but if she does have to leave and you have to hire somebody full-time, you'll have that money there, but please just remember to leave that money there.
Oh, yeah, we do plan to leave. We are not gonna make any adjustments.
Yeah, no, I mean, David is, but I'm just saying.
There's a position there,
Yeah.
and there's insurance on the position too.
Good.
So
See, that way
we've
got
got
you.
that accounted, and we won't be spending that, hopefully.
Yeah,
So
but
that's
that doesn't
even
mean you
more.
need to leave anytime soon.
No.
We're ready for you.
We don't want her to leave, and she was nice enough where, and I still have a callus on one of my knees where I got down on my knees and begged her to stay so we wouldn't lose all that knowledge, which is, and I'm thankful that she did decide to stay. We have a very dedicated staff, and I will let them know, I appreciate you hearing us today.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Y'all have a good day. Who we got next? Yeah.
I'll go ahead with it.
Yeah, Sunday next.
Okay.
I think they're ready.
Is that going back to zero?
Anybody need to go to the restroom real quick?
Yeah, take a back.
Yeah. We're gonna take a bathroom break. You good? We're running the restroom.
Everybody's gonna come break, Sheriff, because you're so long-winded.
We may find out something bad.
I think it was a blanket statement. We'll go with that.
I must quit.
Forgive me for formally emailing you all.
Okay.
I just knew it was gonna come up somewhere along the
The salaries can be more than last year.
Are we ready for the seven? Aaron, are you good?
Yes, sir.
Looks like it. Yeah.
Yeah, don't let it
Feel free to
die.
stand, sit, whatever you want to do.
Make
Is it not charged?
You need to look at it every 30 minutes and make sure we're
All right, if
live.
everybody would,
Just kidding.
for the sheriff, he's got some requests, and Aaron's gonna present this year.
Any special format with this, or just move down the request?
You just go right ahead, buddy.
I think most of y'all have visited our place and know that we operate off the basics as minimally as possible. And so we've cut from our original submission down to where we think we might be able to get by for a year. Our first item would be to hire 2 new patrol division deputies solely for patrol work. I know that you all are familiar with how busy we stay, not only with our patrol work, but with dealing with all the rest of the problems of the county this past year. 54,659 responses at events that patrol division staffed with, for the most part, 48 people took care of. And 2,507 reportable towers, reportable incidents. That's state reporting guidelines. We feel like 2 deputies will help us continue to chip away to get closer to that national standard of 16 officers per 10,000 residents.
Keep going, you're fine.
The next thing on the list is the printing budget. There's not a lot to say there, it's just things have to be printed. We buy most all of our printed materials from Tricor, which is the state inmate labor bunch, and because they get most of the bids, but we still have to deal with paper in our business. We do as much electronically as we can, but there's some documents that we have to produce. Veterinary services and animal control. So we are fortunate to have Dr. Coles on staff now doing all our euthanasia. We had some claims by employees when they were having to do it. When you're killing hundreds of animals every year, I guess it takes a toll on you. And so, so now Dr. Coles is there and he does most all of those. The other part of veterinarian services is that every possible adoptable animal that comes in goes over to spay and neuter. And before you can adopt them out, the animals have to be spayed and neutered. 7 years ago, we were killing more than 2,000 animals every year, and this year we'll be under 700. A good portion of those, I would like to think that since animal control has been stood up and since we've been spaying and neutering, that's what's bringing those numbers down. And, you know, we're much friendlier with rescues and adoptions than we once were, but a necessary service, and that's what that 2,500 would hopefully cover. Animal food and supplies almost goes without saying. We keep the animals in-house as long as we can, till they're overflowing, with the hopes of them being adopted. State law requires us to keep them 3 days. We have animals there, if there's any hope of them being adopted, for sometimes more than 40 days before they can get out. So, it costs money to keep animals, and when it comes to animal food and supplies, that includes the beds that they have to set up on, the bowls, and all of that. Uniforms almost goes without saying. We adopted, or we agreed last year that we would accept the responsibility of taking care of the SROs and their needs without any line increases to take care of them. We did that, and we've just about run uniforms out of money this year. The uniforms that we buy are always the lowest bid, and we had hoped maybe for some upgrade to that this year. It may not happen, so we've trimmed it down just to make sure that, I mean, we don't wear flour, flour. We don't wear 511, we wear the cheapest bid. Data processing services and data feeds. You all know it takes computers to run the sheriff's office, and it costs money to do that. Some of our normal bidders already have contract increases in place, and that is what it's going to cost us to try to get through the year and keep all computers turned on. Data processing equipment, also we have storage issues. We have to continuously try to upgrade to keep up with that. Guards, security, those are court officers. We're moving toward having a new courthouse. All but one, so we have 14 full-time court security officers for our current 3 buildings. There is an old Attorney General's opinion, well, a 1990s model Attorney General's opinion, that says that court officers shall be certified police officers. And I feel strongly that Post is going to start doing a little arm twisting with that in the near future. We took some steps last year to maybe try to get in between. A court security officer is nothing other than us giving someone the minimum training and handing them their gun and their new blue outfit. So we took some steps to maybe try to get in between certified and just a dude with a gun, and got them all armed guard licenses to maybe relieve some liability. And we are the only sheriff's office in the state that has apparently come up with that idea in the House. Many other sheriffs are interested to hear it. But I think that they're pushing us toward certified police officers in the courtrooms, and I would like to start chipping away at that. By adding the $10,000 whatever to that line, $10,615, that would just let me convert an existing position into a certified police officer. We can take care of the training costs on that. We just like to get there, especially before we get into the new building, because I would like to have some certified police officers in the new building. There'll be a lot of people gathered together, and I want them to have the right kind of help should actual action need to take place. Maintenance. We're requesting one new maintenance position, and that is for the garage. We currently manage 168 of our own vehicles and 15 from the other divisions of the county. We slowly started taking care of everybody's cars in the county, come to find out. And so it's just about more than one man and one inmate can do. I do not like the days of inmates working on cars are far behind us, and I do not like inmates touching sheriff's cars. But that's what we've got, because we've just got one man and one trustee trying to care for our fleet that large. So I think we're at a point that we need some help out there in the form of an actual mechanic. Evaluation and testing. This deals with when we hire a new employee, everyone there has to, by Post and TCI, the Police Officers Standard and Training Commission and the Tennessee Correctional Institute standards say that everybody shall have a psychological and physical before they can come in. We've hired so many, we completed that this year. Both of our psychiatrists that we use have went up on their costs, and so this hopefully will be enough to get us through another year. Transportation, not students, deals with all, well, not all, deals with prisoner transports that we can't accomplish ourselves. If you get arrested in Oregon today, we certainly not going to be able to go pick you up, so we have companies that bid for these transports. We did them last year. We had 64 of these transports all across the state. We had them in Maine, we had them in Washington, we had them in Florida, we had them in Arizona. We had the farthest reaches that you can imagine. If it's within 10 hours, we'll go and get them and bring them back ourselves. But anything more than that is too taxing. So we would ask for that small increase to help us get through. And we're on pace to go over that because there are a lot of places due to COVID that are still sitting on our inmates, fortunately. So it's going to break loose pretty soon. We've continued to accept inmates through COVID with some extra restrictions on them, but we've got several waiting. Instructional supplies and training. We had a deal worked out for many years where we didn't have to pay for CPR cards. Now we do. So $6 a piece. All the employees have to pay their $6 for the cards now. So that's what that increase is for. Vehicle parts, we already talked about how many are in the fleet, and 2,000 to cover those. Vehicle parts covers maintenance repairs that we do in-house. It goes to Ford or someplace else. We don't pay for that. Other charges is a line that we had not been using, so we were able to decrease it by 2,000 for this year. Law enforcement equipment covers every handgun, every taser, all of that stuff that doesn't go away that we don't use up. A taser and a holster is $1,100. And those get really high, and the sheriff gets really mad every time I need to buy tasers. But what tasers have done is reduce officer injuries. So our claims to risk management since the advent of the taser have led to many fewer wrestling matches where people get hurt. And law enforcement supplies, bullets, taser cartridges, things that are expendable. Taser requires us, in order for them to defend us in court, requires us to qualify with taser every year, and that's 2 cartridges that have to be fired. They're $27 a piece. So you have 116 tasers in use at 2 cartridges a piece. That's where those supply costs come from. Health equipment increase of $500. That is to be able to afford 2 AEDs. We have some aging AEDs. We have 2 training sites, not to mention all the towers in the jail and the lower part of the building. So we just need to stay on top of having AEDs. When it comes to jail lines, contracts with private agencies. We accept what's called a SCAP grant from the federal government every year that we detect criminal aliens out of. And we make about $20-some-odd thousand a year just to, when a criminal alien gets booked, it has to be verified. We use a company called Justice Planning to do that. But Justice Planning gets cut because they do that service. We could do it, but it would take a person to do that. And we don't have people just laying around. All that contracts with private agencies would cover would be justice benefits. Also, it's our year again for a Prison Rape Elimination Act audit. And so we have to hire a guy to come in to make sure that we're doing everything that we're supposed to be doing to avoid prison rape and be in compliance with the Prison Rape Elimination Act. Custodial supplies, prisoner clothing, food supplies, food preparation. All these go without saying. Last year in November, we had 932 inmates. Fortunately, this morning we're down to 601, but I don't expect this to last for long. For the past 3 weeks, we've been creeping up about 3 inmates a day.
Might fill up this afternoon.
You could, and we're gassing up things. But
I think we'll make it right back up to 932 again. We made it as low as 552, thanks to the judges. We filled up every state facility that we could with state inmates, but then they quit taking them when they figured out that COVID was going to be bad. So we've done all we could do to keep the population low. But there's a lot of probation violation warrants that have cropped up since this has been going on. The judges have been wanting to pick up. They're in the mood. And so we'll be right back up there. Food, clothing, and custodial supplies, these are just things that we have to keep that place running. So I want to talk about the sheriff's office.
Aaron, how are we doing on the jailers?
We're 22 male guards short this morning. We're even on, well, we probably have a couple more females than we needed, but it's important to just have bodies there. So we've got them doing what they can do. Now, 11 of those are just got out of their initial 2 weeks training week before last. So they'll have 10 full days before they can get turned loose on their own. But we're still losing every day. One that's been with us for almost 15 years just left and went to work for the Portland Police Department. Another one went to go be a roofer. You know, no excuse behind that. I think he wants to start smoking weed. But so we still lose a little bit, but right now I think a lot of people decided to value their jobs. In 2009, a lot of the folks that lost their jobs in 08, the ones that got there in 9 and 10, there's a good majority of them that stayed because they realized this place is probably going out of business. Said a long time we needed a good recession. I didn't mean this bad to get some employees attracted to that jail.
One of the things we've talked about is the money for new employees right now. We're trying not to. I know y'all need them though, and so I'll kind of, if you're comfortable with Ken, and Ken's struggle on that was, no matter what we've said, and y'all know that as the months go on, we evaluate the revenue and get better models. If we can, we're obviously going to do something for the employees. That goes without saying. And the sooner the better we can. The same thing, if you can help us kind of prioritize what positions, and I know that's hard to do, but if we come to you say in 3 months and we say, okay, this is how much extra we have for persons. You know, it's not going to be, hey, you've got this many deputies or anything like that. It might be that we give you a blunt number of, hey, we've got an extra 100,000 that we know we can get for you. So if y'all can just kind of have I hate to say it, but a triage of who you need. And obviously we want you to still fill the open positions you've got for sheriff, for jailers and for the SROs and other stuff. The non-salary items, I don't think there's any way around that stuff. Like the 10,000 to get the guy post-certified, I get it, because otherwise we're going to be hit with needing 14 officers. You know, we might be able to get away if we only have 5. And the let's kind of slide. I know how post is, and I understand what you're saying on that. And the tasers, that's preaching the choir there. That's the best thing in the world. We've done in law enforcement a long time. But so obviously, any of your non-salary stuff, we need to try to fund, even though we're going to have to go into reserves to refund it. And the reason I say that is for y'all, there's some people that will have some requests later on. I just want to make sure it's in the minutes that we value the exigency of why you have to have these supplies and why it has to be done, and we can't wait, compared to some other places where we've asked them to wait on some things. So, and as far as the people, there's no way we can do anybody new right this minute, just because we want to make sure that we're eating reserves, and then we're also losing reserves because we're not gaining anything. So we're trying to kind of balance that, but we realize you have to have employees, and it's a service you have to provide. So as we kind of get better, and what we've asked of Ken, if you don't mind, if it works for you, Aaron and Sheriff, when we go to emergency services, just kind of give us an update of, hey, here's where we're at, here's what we're thinking we need right away, and what I'll do is I'll relay that to the budget so they kind of know, hey, as things start to improve, here's where we need to direct any revenues that come in, anything that's new, so that way we kind of have y'all in front of the line for us. And I can tell them, you know, hey, here's what, you know, they have to have this deputy, or we have to have, you know, the mechanic might be the most important thing in your mind. Whatever it is, but that way we can say, this is the position they need right now, this is how much it is, and we'll try and get those addressed as quickly as we can. Is everybody comfortable with that still? And I know that's not by any case, best case scenario, but I don't wanna tell you no, because we're hoping we can do it again later. We have no idea how the money's gonna be right now. We expect it to come back, we just don't know how quick it's gonna come back. And if it's based on what we've got right now, it's gonna be a couple months before we think we're positive.
We understand. Let me summarize what you got now.
Please, sir. Yeah.
So if we go back to the salary sheet, it originally had, the sheriffs, that's statutory, we've all discussed that. The other one was one mentioned leaving in, which was the certification for the officer in the court. If we remove the 2 deputies and the 1 maintenance, then let's go back over to the budget worksheet. So we see, once you net in the effects of insurance adjustments and everything, the new SROs last year, the sheriff and the jail total would be up about $141,000. You gotta think that the size of that budget, that's pretty small.
And that does cover, you're still good, the uniforms and everything else like you talked about then?
Are you cutting the SRO line item?
These SROs are still in there, all those.
No, that's all in there.
What we did is we
Because
gave.
that's 694.
Well, the sheriff, it was about
But that
with benefits, it was about $1.2 million last
Yeah.
year. So if you look at the spreadsheet, we give the sheriff's department credit for that amendment of $1.1 million to the budget.
Right.
Otherwise, their budget would be significantly more than last year, but you guys amended that during the year.
Okay.
But we try to eliminate that and then flow through monies for like
Well, and then we know, like.
the task
at
force has
different
money
times-
flows through them.
Well, and also different times come in the year, there's gonna be additional medical expenses, additional food expenses for the jail. It pops up and they do a great job planning for it. We just kinda say, okay, here's what it is, and when it comes up extra, we just have to pay extra. Just-
Give that detail on our sheet, show. We'll show you where the MTS.
The one, but as far as the SO part, one of it was they were eating all the costs for the uniforms, and like Aaron said, they can't do that anymore.
That in the vehicles.
Yeah.
They're right here. They're still 10,
Yeah,
so they're all in there.
So they're all in there.
Yes, they're all in their budget with full benefits and everything. They're training them as quick as possible with special coaching.
But what we're doing.
I said that kind of really slowed them down.
We're budgeting also for their clothes and stuff like that too.
Right. How are
Bless
we
you.
in terms of getting those positions filled, or those?
That's tough. There's not a lot of people want to be cops right now. This
Right.
week, probably not gonna get any applications.
We have a test planned for June the 27th, I think, for both corrections and deputies. So if you know any officers that's certified,
I was gonna talk to you, I've got some that's not certified, but bilingual.
by all means, I'd like for them to fill out an application. Because I really don't, right now, we have about 15 slots we need to fill between SRO and deputy. And I hate to have to get every one of them certified, because that's $3,300 a piece. So my budget, we didn't budget for that, so, hopefully, we get some certified people wanting to test and come to Summit County.
When you say bilingual, what's more than Hinsville?
No, that's actually Spanish.
Hey, Sheriff and Aaron, just FYI, because you were talking about planning for the new building. If it won't be on this budget for anything new, I mean, if that, everything went perfect, and you know what a gigantic construction, how on average, how often they go perfect, you're talking January 23, December 22, before that could even feasibly be, and that's everything going through perfectly.
Well, the idea behind starting to chip away at the court officers is just that.
Yeah.
To go ahead and.
So
by
it
that
won't be
time,
one large expense right before we open the door.
Right.
We might be able to, by that time, have 5 certified police officers in the building.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I don't mind, our court security officers, a lot of them, this is their only dream in life. They like the hours, they like being in the courtroom. They and the judges hug and buy each other Christmas stuff. And I think a lot of them will want to stay there. So there's some that don't mind just being a court security officer, either because they couldn't make it to the academy or because we have one reason or another. And some that would like to stay in there. And I'm glad for them too, just as a certified police officer. We hope that that by attrition we'll lose those blue uniform court security officers and be able to replace with deputy sheriffs one of these days. Especially before Post tells us to.
We may not need that many if we keep doing Zoom calls.
That's right. We were talking about having a Zoom protest today rather than in person.
Hey, Chris, did you want to look for capital too? I can't recall what they had, but you probably did.
Aaron, did you want to go over y'all's capital? real
Yes,
quick?
sir.
Thank you, sir.
The ask in there would have been for motor vehicles, which is always our ask, and that was in our long-range plan. We're leaving that pattern the same as we have. Right now, half the cars in the fleet are 90,000 miles or more. So we're fortunate that they work patrol until about 100,000, and then we can step them down to SRO, and then step them down to jail transport, and step them down to whatever, and then finally we give them to Marshall. Completely wore out, we send them to Marshall. So that's the car deal. The other was for the body scanner, which we have kicked around, now for 2 years. You remember the mass jail overdose we had in April of 17? Just the hospital bills from that day were $500,000 between the employees and the inmates that we had to send over one mass overdose. And I don't know if we'd have found it or not with a body scanner, but we'd have had a better chance. So as the building changes, as we add space out there, my vision is that everyone will have to proceed through the body scanner, because we have, human beings have an innate secret compartment. And
You can stop right there. I think we all understand why you have a need for a body scanner.
you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. When the news called and said, don't you search them? Well, we do, as good as we can.
I remember many of them recovering crack. I'll just leave it at that. So, in the 90s.
When we're done with the sheriff, before we go to Marshall, can we look at EMAs?
Yeah, is there anything, how are we on capital for tennis?
We're still about 300 or 400,000 below, but we also need to discuss the water line project, because you got this year's in, there's 400,000 that's been a recurring request, but I think the
Yeah, they
new
can't
committee's
use it.
looking about using it for grant matches only, so you may not need that next year, but you probably need at least $2 million in capital, and you're about 1.7. That's all you're gonna have next year.
And the water might make up most of that then.
It'll probably make it up, but still the same thing, that's just, what I would think you need for the bare minimum, because things come up here in the year. And because you've got a lot of large deals like the jail, sheriff department, this building, there's stuff.
Is everybody comfortable with the capital for the sheriff that way? Because a lot of it's the car show SRs and people just, I can't say the minute we stop replacing those cars, it becomes a nightmare. Because then at some point we'll have one where we have to buy like 20 or 30 cars.
Compared to lease something,
Yeah.
that's not a good deal.
Yeah, because we just went through that again in Nashville, where we had a big glut and they got rid of them and now we're hurting them. So, is everybody good?
Are we leaving the data processing stuff?
That's
in
what he's
his
saying for the
request?
body scanner.
No, well, I'm not talking about capital, it's going back to general.
For the sheriff's department?
The sheriff, right, what Aaron was talking about, you said your data processing services,
Right.
like that contract has gone up.
So, well, there
That's
are about 10 vendors within that.
The 91,000, which is all the stuff Aaron mentioned, plus the 10, plus benefits for the certification, makes up the 104,000 more we're showing the sheriff. And I think there's about 37,000 in jail, and it was predominantly food. So yeah, that's still in there right now.
Not seeing the cars in here.
Sir, is there anything else you wanted to say?
I'm good.
Aaron,
Unless you had something else to explain.
No.
Aaron, how do we think the numbers will look next year for the jail? Because I budgeted 2.7 last year, 2.7 next year. And you mentioned it's going up and down based on what the judge, this year we're gonna come in, oddly enough, that's gonna be one of the revenues that are actually above budget and good. Do we think the 2.7's too weak, too strong? Historically, the 2.7's been on the lower end, we're always concerned. Do you think we could bump that up, or just, we should stay where we're at? Or the sheriff, I don't know if I should ask Aaron or the sheriff. I'm not sure which one.
I think they're going to come right back.
Let's get the history for that revenue, kind of show them what we're talking about, and if you go to the revenue for the general fund, it'll be toward the beginning.
I'm like Aaron, I think the judges are gonna start dropping hammers on people, because you've had people that for the past 2.5, 3 months have not done the thing they're supposed to do. and they haven't been able to reach out and snatch in. I think that's gonna come a bunch all at once.
We suspended all out-of-county transports unless it was a crime of violence or felony crime. So that means all across the state, we turn people loose.
This is what I was looking at. 2.69, 2.9, 2.6, estimated this year, I think that's actually a really low estimate, 2.7. If we're coming back up, historically, it's been more than 2.6. And I left it the same because it's so unknown.
That's holding, that money there is coming from holding state inmates.
Right.
So the state's not taking any. So everybody that Judge Gay commits going forward, or, I don't know, for how long, until the state's gonna open their doors back up. Or it's gonna be sitting in our jail at $39 a day. They had talked about this new program where if we give some sort of classes at our place, they bumped up to 44 a day. They have not rolled out any plans for that other than to say that we might give you $5 extra a day. But I think that we're gonna be stuck with, you said that, but I think that we are going to have state inmates that we can farm out. You know, over the past, well, before COVID, in the 18 months before that, we had shipped 300 state inmates somewhere else just to try to keep our population down. We filled up the Memphis jail, we filled up the Robertson County jail with nothing but state inmates.
Another thought we made, I want to leave the revenue where it's at because, as Aaron said, if we're doing 2.7 based on their capacity, and suddenly we have a lot more inmates, a couple more things are gonna happen. We're gonna have more food, more medical, and we're also going to have more utilities. So if that comes in at 3 million, we may need part of that to offset the inmates. So I first thought that may be a way to help some of our budget woes, but at the same time, if we've been running historically 2.7 around about a little bit, that's what their cost is, so we may not want to do that.
I'd say leave it like it is, Dave.
Right. For two reasons, it does come in lower.
I think so. I think there's even 100 state inmates sitting there this morning unless Judge Gay has committed somebody else.
Does anything else, anybody have anything else for Aaron and Sheriff?
No, I had a question for David. I didn't see where the motor, I'm under the capital projects on page 67, but I didn't see the cars in the budget.
Oh, yeah, it needs to be fine.
It's, I want to say it's under 697. Yeah,
So
697 is in there.
What page was you looking at, Ms. Shield? How many cars?
Page 67,
It should be 16.
the difference is zeroed out.
Oh, yeah, but it's the same.
So it's just the
That's
same
what
from
it
last
is.
year. It's not an increase. It's just the
Right.
same as budgeted. Okay.
He asked for the
Gotcha.
exact same amount as last
Perfect.
year.
We just,
I just saw a zero,
as long as we
but there's no
keep giving
difference.
the
Okay.
same number, at least the
Yep.
same number of cars, we're okay. We won't be in a bad spot, but if we, someday we
Commissioner
need to
Turner
get
asked a question if that's fully loaded, fully outfitted. The answer is yes, and that's another thing that our maintenance man at the garage does. We don't send our stuff out to another place at $2,500 a car to get them outfitted. Our current fleet manager has an electronics background and does a really good job of putting our cars together for us. Saves money on that end.
I think I'm hearing your priority.
Possibly.
But, if we don't have anybody, do y'all have anything else you want to tell us or say, or?
You're covered.
Well, thank y'all very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Hopefully we won't be too busy this afternoon.
We'll call you.
Hey, just keep everything in Gallatin.
on the square in Gallatin.
If they had that new parking garage, they could,
Yeah.
use that as a station.
We're a little behind schedule.
Come on in, Mr. Young.
You're welcome to come.
Well, your ears burning?
Ears burning?
Oh, you say soul.
I have trouble hearing you.
Yeah, he's ready to.
Okay.
Marshall next.
Let's see who's next year.
Marshall.
Soil conservation's next, but we can move, as long as we don't miss it, because it does have a raise in there. And then county
Hold on, we can
executive.
address soil conservation real quick. We need to reduce them back to 0.
She
Go
had
ahead.
said that she was fine with reducing, she understood everything.
Thank you, Ms.
Yeah,
Beth.
she requested, but she wanted to request it for some other cases.
And if they want to come back later, they can, but yeah, we might as well just address that now so we don't.
And I think Mr. Holt's actually next, but since he's gone anyway. And since he's at the table all day, can we, if he's fine with it, move
Yeah.
him?
Yeah.
Or you find Mr. Holt to be moved to the end, the way we can kind of catch up? If you're gonna be here all day. That'll catch us up pretty close. We move him towards the end.
All right, we're gonna do Marshall then?
That would put us to Marshall.
You know what? I really enjoy this 5 minutes every year. He likes to pick on man.
I will say Marshall was one of the people that let me know last year they needed vehicles. We talked about that. And he also included in his, the 5-year operational 20-year capital, I think. And he also gets this year's probably not the greatest year in the world. But Marshall, what we're telling everybody before you go is, we're doing zero, but what we want to do is let all the employees know that as things change, it gets a little better. Before, we've always been where we don't change anything throughout the year. This year, we're more than willing to, and if revenues start going up and things project better, we want to look at doing cost of living for the employees, and then if things keep going along, we realize you have some needs that are going to have to be addressed sooner rather than later. But if you don't, go ahead, sir.
I guess the most pressing thing in our department is that, in the last couple of weeks, we've been informed that we're going to have to take the gas inspectors from Gallatin Utilities. We'll be doing the plan review, issuing permits and doing inspections. And Gallatin Utilities region is pretty substantial out of the county. So we don't have any hard numbers to give you as far as additional revenues. We're thinking probably $30,000 to $40,000 additional. My concern is budget overruns, because we did not put that in the budget for additional vehicles, gasoline, training, that kind of stuff. So we'd like to.
Is that something you want us to maybe 3 months, 4 months, whatever, when you've had a good idea how much it's going to bring in, how much it's going to cost, come back and maybe readjust your budget if we need to? Like that.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir, Mr. Hall.
We don't have a choice.
Oh, I know we got
have
stuff
to do that. And, you know, now, since Timsville got rid of the state electrical inspector, they're here now. And that's another issue. The state electrical inspector, and this is something that I think the number's been supplied to you, right, David?
What now, I'm sorry?
State electrical inspector.
He sent me some rough stuff, but talking to Marshall and him, there's some preliminary work like commission, the state boss, so it would be good to include in the budget today, but it looks like it would be a net positive for the county.
The point I'm trying to make is Marshall's responsibilities have gone way up. And that's a great thing to have the state electrical inspector here, because if not, he would have left the county. And then that way, it would have been very difficult for people to get electrical inspections. You can't build a house without one. So I'm glad that he's here, but I think it's something that we should consider taking it over and contracting with him versus the state, because he is here now. I think that is going to be a positive revenue for the county. But let me say this about Marshall's office. He's taken on a lot more responsibility. He does need vehicles. I mean, we have done some replacement, we'll give you a vehicle this year.
Yeah, 1 last year and 3 this year.
3 this year. The point I'm trying to make is, and Aaron said it jokingly, but it's true, for years we've run on these old, worn out, 250,000 mile vehicles, and they're running all over the place. The problem with that, the maintenance is out the stratosphere, and on state bid, you can buy a nice vehicle for $25,000. I know that sounds like a lot of money, but when you consider how much we're having to spend for maintenance, it's really not that bad. The thing that concerns me about Marshall, he's not gonna say anything. Marshall's the kind of guy that works hard. You could kick him in the teeth, and he's not gonna complain. But the problem with Marshall is he is way underpaid. I'm just gonna be honest. There's 2 people that I'm very concerned about. And I addressed this with Marshall. He took the pay request out of here at the request of finance. But he is underpaid. I mean, this guy's making $79,000 a year. We're paying our planner basically $93,000. Marshall needs a $10,000 raise. He needs one. I think he's one of the best.
Mr. Hall, I can say without doubt.
Building commissioners we have. I'm bringing it out.
No, Marshall's always been great. That's what I'm saying.
He's great to work with. He doesn't complain. He doesn't ask for anything. And Billy works for him. I mean, he's a pretty good boss, right, Billy?
Yes, sir.
And he treats people fairly. I'm just saying, I've got two people, him and my grant writer. And you may not do it, you may not want to give him any additional money, but you're not going to replace him. And I'm just bringing that out. I know we're in tough budget times, but we need to discuss it because it's just a fact.
Is Marshall somebody that that would fall under that pay study, Mr. Vaughn?
Yes.
Would they be able to compare him
Yes,
for that?
yes, and kind of another thought here, because of what Marshall mentioned earlier. We have put, what I budgeted was half the decrease in building permits from 2009, which is probably pretty much what I think is going to come in, maybe a little better, hopefully not worse. But talking to Marshall, there's going to be money coming in for the inspections on the gas lines we know right now. A pretty considerable amount, so if we did the salary survey, when he's already picked up the responsibility, that's something you could look at then, and there would be a revenue source.
Well, it's gonna be a revenue source, and he's done stuff like, you know, when we initially issued building permits, we didn't include porches and coverings and things like that. That was, every city does that. Every city does that. He has brought to my attention things that have increased revenues for the county, because now we include that in the square footage of building permit. He's done an exceptional job. He never complains. And I just, it's not equitable to put somebody in that kind of role, add things after things on them, and you're bringing in more revenue, and you're not compensating. So I wanted to bring that to your attention. I know I'm a pain for you guys, but I'm here every day dealing with real public servants, and he does a great job. I'm not saying other people don't do a great job, but he is clearly, you look down through these salaries, he is underpaid.
Would it be fair, oh, go ahead, Mr. Goode.
I was gonna say, his shoes and shirt match perfectly, but, could we not include, I got a question about the gas, but, could we not include that in the pay study, and y'all, the three of y'all try to talk about how he's really doing 3 jobs for one?
And what I was gonna say, that when we do the pay study, it's gonna be after July 1. After July 1, when we pass all the zoning stuff, that also includes us taking back all the the city planning areas back into the county. So it's gonna dramatically increase the number. Because we've talked before that once that happens and we evaluate the revenue, they're gonna have to have another inspector. I mean, they said they can, because he's Marshall, he said they can handle it for a while, and that's not, you know, like he's always gonna do stuff, but they're gonna have another one based on the revenue. I think that's a perfect time to reevaluate and maybe rewrite his job
He's
description.
basically on 3 or 4 jobs at once.
If we don't amend any of the revenue in right now, because
Yeah, we can't do it right
then
now.
you'll have the money for the gas, the money for the planning regions. He can tell you about how much their loads came up and how much his responsibility. Plus, at the same time, hopefully around that time, you'll be doing the salary survey if you do it. Then they'll capture that too. And you'll have the revenue versus just taking out of fund balance.
Mr. Holt, if you don't mind, we'd like to wait on it because I
Oh,
don't.
yeah.
Well, and the reason I say
I'm
this, I
bringing it
think-
to your attention.
yeah.
I'm not saying, you know, I'm requesting it today. I mean, if you did, it'd be great. But I don't want it to fall between the cracks, because what happens, and I think Leslie mentioned this, and this is exactly the way it's always been. We set a budget, it's set in concrete, you come back, you talk anything about it, it's like, oh my gosh, you committed a cardinal sin. But the reality is, we're dealing with a lot of uncertainties. You're under a lot of pressure. I agree totally. You gotta be very, very careful, but
Everybody understands this.
he needs an adjustment. He
Well,
really
and
does.
I'm just saying, if I guess after we add everything in, it's gonna come in, it'd probably be a lot more than that. So.
Yeah, my guess is too. Well, I may have missed this, but why, just out of curiosity, I realize we're gonna make money on the end of the day, but why did Galveston quit doing gas?
They refuse to go outside the city anymore. And so you have to inspect them, because if not, they could never receive gas. And when people build a house, that's a decision.
So they're still doing internal Gallatin, but nothing
Just
on...
internal Gallatin. But the deal is, their utility lines run way out.
Yeah, like
Gallatin Gas,
Waterhouse.
out in the county, we want them to do that because that provides a service.
But also, I've had houses that I went to and people said, we're so glad y'all are taking this over because it's taken 2 and 3 weeks to get a gas line inspection. I wanted to say one other thing, and I know most of y'all are aware of this, but I remember a commission meeting a few years back where a commissioner wanted to just do away with the codes department. And we've got code books, at least 3 or 4 of them, that thick. And 60 to 75% of that are safety issues. And I really do feel like that Building and Codes Department has done a really good job. And I keep bringing up the addresses. We don't ever give anybody a certificate of occupancy if they don't have address numbers on their house or somewhere where an ambulance or a fire engine can get to them. But there's all kinds of safety issues that we would be hiring a lot more EMS people and a lot more ambulances and fire trucks and all that stuff if we didn't have building.
Mr. Long, you had to look. I
I
think there's only
Go to
one
the
difference.
summary sheet. Last year when Marshall hired his new person, it actually cost him $2,500 gas last year. So it shows he's over last year by $2,516. That's the only thing he's, it has to do with what he did last year, and that was discussed during the meeting last year that he had a position in, but he wasn't sure it would be enough, so he hired him a little later, he had enough for the year, but it's $2,500 annualized.
Is everybody comfortable adding the 2,500? Obviously, so Marshall, you got anything?
Just that I anticipate, gas utilities like Piedmont to follow suit with what Gallatin Utility did. They don't want to burn it also. And the same with electrical, the powers that be in the state, according to the senior electrical inspector that's been doing electrical for 22 years here in the house here in the county building. He says that the state really would like to hand this over to the counties anyway, the local jurisdictions doing the state electrical inspector. So if we're directed to follow that, then I think it would be good for the county as far as catching the revenue source on that also. So other than that, then I think I'm pretty good.
One more item, Chris. He's got a capital project request, and some of you guys need to review also. I believe it's for a vehicle. We'll go down and show you. And Marshall can talk about it. He's got a, I think it's maybe one truck.
So just after we get the 3 vehicles that I think have already been ordered for our department, all inspectors can have unique vehicles except one, and that person still be riding around in the leader. So we'd like maybe next year to ask for one.
Yeah, he's had 55 last year, it's cut it in half to 27.5, but probably half his vehicles are so old, that they're costing more maintenance than for replacing people being stuck. So with this one, get everybody to have one, but you need both of them to have everybody to have one.
If we can get more in the next fiscal year.
If we gave, what he's saying is if we gave you this one this year, would that take care of you?
I think we're scheduled to get 3 this year.
Well,
The
we're saying
fiscal
that.
year went now.
Yeah, and then next year, get another one to take care of it.
The one for 2021, we are getting ready to start if you just get one in hand, because you originally had 2 on there.
That's right.
We've already ordered those vehicles.
Yeah, and we're talking about for this upcoming.
For the upcoming year, would one get you where everybody has one new one?
That's correct.
Because I know we've had issues where we've had to tow years and a lot of accidents.
Yes.
It's really expensive. We're talking $5,000-$10,000 repairs on a 27.5 replaceable vehicle. I think we had a 10, 15, how big was that one? Was that 10 or 15?
Yeah. It's like Chief Aaron said, we get them after their number.
Is everybody comfortable leaving their capital then for the one car? Thanks. Anybody else have anything for Marshall? Marshall, you got everybody? I know you're talking.
Good. Aaron, thank you.
Hey, we're good, mate. Thank you.
I'd just like to thank Mayor Hope for kind words. Appreciate the boss. Okay.
Checks in the mail, right?
We have Mr. Young, and he wants to talk about which library it is.
Mr. Young, just to catch you up to speed, Is it Portland?
Now, wait a minute.
Portland
How did you
Library.
get in front of me now? I was okay with partial.
Portland Library had a salary request.
Yeah, Michelle, Portland Library had a salary increase for their, the chief, and we explained to them that they need to take that. One, we told them 3 months ago when they brought it up that they need to talk to you about it. Apparently they haven't talked to you about it, so we told them the only way we could do something like that is if they took the library board to make sure there wasn't inequity among the other
We've
libraries.
had
And hopefully she'll come and see you. If she won't, we'll keep reminding her that she needs to come see you. So.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, that's what we've been trying to tell
Oh,
you.
wait, you talking about kicking this man in the teeth, it hurt you.
Where is the library?
Really, mine is very simple. I had two of my ladies kind of got confused on that stuff above the line communication. One up in Millersville, we had some increases in health insurance and dental, I think some in longevity. And she took everything out to make it come back to zero. So I just need to add that back. I've got the figures, I can give them to Amanda. And the other one was Portland, we had $195 above the line. She didn't pay any attention to it, she just zeroed out everything in the other. So I've taken that $195 out. What did I say? Okay, Westmore.
Can we just right now, because of the time, the way we can see a presentation go over to Millersville and just add 7,396 to like books or equipment, and then take 195 out of another line over there, maybe to make it.
What we're saying, Michelle, we're just gonna put it on there, but we know you got it.
No problem, well, I'll give it to Amanda, we'll make sure it gets in.
We're just trying to make it where we can see where we're at right now.
And you don't know how, it's just a pleasure to come in and see you.
I can't be made to make that.
It's always good to see you too,
Well, Jim's gonna talk about it, it's fine.
Is there anything else you have?
No, I don't have anything else, that's all.
Hey, you know anything about this Portland deal where there's some of part-time janitor left?
I think it's everything.
You heard about it?
I have not been involved.
Mr. Young, just so you know, we're not gonna allow her to make any changes yet. She's not gonna make any changes until she's spoken.
It's all right.
And her board.
Well,
she'll figure it out.
yeah, sometimes it takes people longer than others.
That one's going on 3 months now.
All right, anything else?
Hey, I suggested the commissioner from Portland volunteer up there and help out.
He can help.
Yeah.
I guess you heard, maybe you heard, maybe you hadn't. We, Galvin Police notified us yesterday afternoon. They picked up some word that there's gonna be a little march tonight from the Galvin Library to the police station. So they're supposed to join up on the parking lot at the Galvin Library. So we're closing the library at 5. They're supposed to join up at 6. So, anyway, just so you know.
You going?
Yeah, oh, yes, yeah, look for me, I'll be the guy with purple hair running down the middle.
Jim, I thought I heard they were gathering at 4.
Star
They
Ridge.
said it.
Now, they may have changed
So
it.
capital,
Star
we do need
Ridge
to
was
look at
closing at
capital
4.
projects.
Oh, okay.
There's a few small ones over there, but next year we try to cut things down to the minimum, just things like painting.
Painting is what we need, that's
I don't know
our
if they're on
capital
cover,
project.
that or not, they got-
Buildings are 10 years old.
What are you gonna do on that?
I don't know, but they need to do big.
What was the capital?
They have some painting, that's.
Painting.
On which building?
It's a couple. 8 and 7,500.
Which building we painting?
Gallatin, Hendersonville. Is that what that is?
Yeah.
Paint Gallatin and Hendersonville. Paint Gallatin and Hendersonville.
Galvin and Hendersonville, they're both 10 years old.
And maybe something to look at tomorrow.
Oh, they don't take care of it?
Because you,
Yeah.
we can take the water line to be over 2, but you still will be higher.
Okay. Okay, keep it in for right now then.
It's market rate, that way they can look at it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, gentlemen, ladies.
Mr. Holt, next.
You next.
We're gonna do Mr. Carey next.
Yes,
This is
sir.
pretty easy. His is actually negative $25,000, but we did want to discuss, and Mr. Young may want to be here.
You just thought you were getting rid of us.
He was trying to go wide. We're trying to pull.
I was doing this.
We're trying to pull all the IT stuff back into IT, and one of them is the libraries. So two things we wanna do, and this is my thought process, let's approve the budget, the way Mr. Young will have something, because we gotta certify MOE each year. Then we can be clear what we're decreasing the libraries and moving over to IT and giving them service and paying costs in lieu of, that way we don't have a big of an argument with the state on MOE. That's kind of my concern, because if we move it during the budget process and it's really fuzzy, then us and the state gonna be a hard time saying we're giving them services and costs from another department, which is IT versus in their budget. But if we do their budget and then come back after the fact, we can show the state clear. Wanted to make sure Mr. Young was aware of that, because me and Mr. Carey, and I think Mr. Young talked about it a couple of months ago, but we've been kind of going back and forth the easiest way. We thought maybe during the budget process, but we're kind of worried about MOE, so we're kind of wanting to wait after. But that's one reason Mr. Carey's here to discuss what items, but his is actually negative, so it should be pretty easy.
Okay. The other side of that, we did drop this year, but we are going to have more expenses this year. So what we did save, we're gonna probably spend. The catcher is, we've taken on juvie, we'll take on adult probation in the next few weeks. EMS and EMA departments are now part of our network, so we're getting charged for some of their stuff. We also own the 5 libraries at this point. So when I say this, we've rolled out computer systems. There's a server in each library. There's malware, antivirus software that's rolled out to all of these to make sure it's in compliance with our network. These are costs that we're currently coming out of our budget, but we need to start pulling that in from each one of these departments as we bring them into the network. I'm not sure how you want to do that. I know some departments have the ability to do their own thing, but as we have grown, we've taken on extra costs.
Dennis, I think we said this was the plan from the whole time, was once people saw how the benefit of all under IT, we had more and more people jumping on it when they realized how good it was. So I'm confident in David's ability to make sure you get that money.
What we're saying right now is, in other words, people have virus protection, software in their budget that's in there right now that Dennis's budget, but even at the 21 down, is going to end up paying next year. He's got enough to pay those, but it keeps growing, and then right now, the other one is libraries, we have not moved theirs next year. They have several, I don't know, what, $100,000 at least, probably.
I think it boils down to when you say, hey, everything's done, there's no need for them to have that in their budget anymore because we're paying the bills. I think that's the perfect time for us to move it over.
I think a budget amendment, that would be cleaner.
Yeah.
Come in like July, do a budget amendment and move it over.
Well, you know, there's departments, a good one is planning and stormwater, for instance. We could take over their complete IT. They don't even have to buy computers anymore, they just come to us and we can take care of that for them. So they wouldn't even have an IT line in there per se.
No, but that was the goal, I thought, was that we had all done at the same
Right.
He does all ours. We still show computers in our lines, but he buys them and everything else, we just have to split it out.
I just wanted to bring it up to everybody so that going forward, because come into this new budget year, our cost will go up. So I didn't show it on my on the budget sheet because I felt we could pull it out of the departments it belongs to and just keep moving forward.
But I can say one thing, since Dennis has done ours, and we got rid of the people that we were trying to do it with the fewest people possible, we've had a much more reliable, less stressful network. It actually works like it should. Versus the people that I had to scream at that could never get to work because they couldn't do it.
Well, like
so we actually have somebody can do it now, they know what they're doing.
And we'll start experiencing the cost.
Yeah.
We'll start getting the cost savings too, like we said, of having one entity doing everything, so.
Me and him talk every day, but there was certain vendors that were charging us inordinate amounts for stuff that I had suspicions about that Dennis confirmed and stopped, 2 years ago? And his people were doing it and buying equipment, and it is like 1/8 of what they were charging? 1/10?
Oh,
It was things that, I was suspicious of. Dennis confirmed my suspicions and handled it.
We were virtually paying $150 for a 9-volt battery.
Oh yeah, that was my suspicion for years, couldn't prove it. Oh yeah, I was.
Dennis, what is the percentage of who, I know you sent an update a while back of how many people have come over into your department. Where are we percentage-wise?
We're still sitting pretty close to that.
Okay.
That same number. There's a lot of departments that, for one reason or another, just don't want to. I think.
Are those elected official offices?
Most of them are.
Okay.
Yeah. But there's also smaller departments that, just aren't quite sure that they're ready for us yet. And we've given them the opportunity, so I think coming into this next year, we'll get the rest of it.
think
If
it's
it's
scary.
not an elected office, is it within our jurisdiction to mandate it?
Well, it's in mind, but here's the thing.
You'd rather
You're
them
talking
come
about
willingly than
something
keep them
very,
screaming.
very small, insignificant. It's not.
People, here's the thing.
I just think we're not duplicating.
No, what,
No.
no, there is, be honest, there are some places that are duplicating what
Probably
this
pay
is
more,
doing, and they're probably getting a crappy
Paying
service.
$150 for a
But
line vote.
the problem is, I can say from experience, and everybody, Dennis can too, if you try and make everybody jump on, it's a horrible experience. People come screaming, kicking, and if you let them fall and they fail, and then they come to you for help, it's really a much smoother process. And
We're
so
not
we wanna
asking
do
for
whatever
any
you ask
money
them.
for them.
Well, in reality, is you
Yeah,
couldn't bring
Chris is
everybody on
exactly
board
right.
at one time anyway,
Well,
so
I
it's,
agree. I
they're
just wasn't
trickling
sure
in,
where we
so
were.
There are
it's.
some
If
offices
they're
that still have
unhappy,
that
they'll
state
make
computers.
Everything that
Yeah.
goes wrong is a disaster.
Right.
I mean, if your
agree.
computer's down for 5 minutes, they'll call every one of you and tell you it's a disaster if they're unhappy. That's kind of what you run into if he pulls in 5 little departments that don't like it.
It's
They'll kick
working
and
out,
scream.
he's doing a great job, and let me just say this, he's got a good facility now, he's got a
No, it's
motivated
nice.
team, everything's working out, and that's a big change. Remember, we never had IT, ever, everybody was doing their own thing, we were all over the place.
It was a nightmare.
And they have a door that locks really well.
You couldn't hire, I mean, you couldn't hire qualified people. I mean, Chris, there was a point you couldn't hire qualified people. You wasn't sure if they were doing the job after you hire them, you could watch them, they would give you, because you can't watch them 24/7, so you really need a qualified director in IT.
I know
knows
I'm
what's going on.
extremely tech savvy, because I could really know what they were doing, but that would be like a astronomical lie, because I don't know anything about IT.
You need a full-time person watching it, though.
And there's
who
still a
knows
lot-
what they're looking for.
Still a lot to do, because there's several departments here that you can only, like, buy a building permit with a cash or check.
We're putting in, that's in the budget next year. It's been in there for 3 years, and we moved around a little money, so it's no increase, but Intergov, which is the electronic permitting system,
We need
I think they're looking to start on
Mhm.
that July 1.
Doesn't City of Gallatin have that? Yeah.
Yeah, they do. And then we've talked. and
That
then
would
he's
change
looking at
Oh, yeah,
updating
I
it.
agree.
And
It
then
would be a
risk
game
management's
changer.
something we can be brought on to.
Yeah, and then he's looked at,
When's that
you know,
supposed to go
some
live,
point
July?
doing the
We'll
redoing the
start,
webpage.
we're gonna buy it, start implementing July 1.
This July?
Dennis is gonna work with his folks at July 1.
Does anybody have any
She
questions for
doesn't care
Dennis?
about the county, it's just easier to get
When
the
do
building
we,
permit.
It'll take 6 months
when do we
probably.
start buying tablets for commissioners and stop killing trees? It seems like an IT-ish kind of question, and I do wonder, I mean, seriously, your planning committee, the budget committee, we generate a lot of paper, and maybe there's a way that you can start with a committee group and then those tablets. I mean, ultimately, it would be ideal for our commission, and there
Yeah,
are
that's actually a really great idea.
surrounding committees. or
They've talked
surrounding
about that
counties.
several years,
Yeah,
we weren't
put 7
elected,
of you in budget.
but it came up and
Way
it did
before we had an
not go
IT,
over.
we talked about doing that, and actually it just became a political football with an old commission. But most of them are going to that now, and it does make sense.
But if you're a committee of 7, like you guys are relatively small, and we're talking, you can buy a good tablet for, what, $1,000?
Dennis, if you
So
would.
you're
write-
talking
yeah.
$7,000 to put a budget on there and try it as a pilot,
Yeah,
get rid of all the paper.
Yeah,
it'd be nice to, like, that's a good idea to start with just a committee.
that's a great idea.
And see how it
Would you-
works.
Would you mind looking into that for us?
Lock them up with the owl, take them out.
Well, I would think you would take them home because all your
I
notes
don't
and
think it's,
stuff are on
it's
it.
obviously not just the cost
Okay, I
of the
was
tablets,
thinking, like,
because it's gonna,
print
you
them
know,
out before
it's
the
gonna
meeting
need
so
your
they could
department
reference
to
it at the
to
meeting.
keep up with those.
Do what now?
I would have thought it would be like you hand them out before the meeting so they can reference it during the meeting, and at home they can look at it on their own computers or. We don't print
Like a lot of
them.
times, like I'll bring an agenda and I'll make notes all over my agenda and I'll bring that agenda to my meeting. So I think that, and I know Deanne does a lot of that as well.
Well, we did through
Especially on a
finance,
big
and I'll use it for
agenda.
presentations.
Dennis, my
Yeah,
MacBook's
so they
5 years
good,
old,
or
do
they-
iMac.
The Surface Pro is almost $1,000.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
My Surface Pro is only $1,000.
This is the pros where you can run 365.
Dennis, put them together something.
Need something to run
Yeah,
365.
that was a great question.
I just
He's
want to
g- and
point
he said
out
he's gonna
he was-
work on it for us,
I was
and
really-
the test committee.
I just want to point out he was staring at the building when he worried about the font size.
So you'll need Office 365, a PDF reader, and fire protection, please.
Anybody else got anything? Thank you, buddy, you're good.
If you can make use of it.
Thank you, Dennis.
Have a good day.
All right, did you wanna do Mr. Polk now?
When is lunch coming?
Is Mr. Carter here?
We've got 5 minutes to lunch. You wanna wait before or after?
It's gonna be a little late.
Let's just knock it out.
Whatever,
Let's go right ahead.
Bring the lunch in.
They're trying to lace, we got
We
Mr.
can make
Gold.
work through lunch.
All right, you ready?
Yes, sir.
Oh, we still
Ready
got
to
to
move?
do capital.
To zero, just be done with it.
Mr. Holt, go ahead, sir.
All right, here's what I've got. My increase, here's the reality. One is an error. It is on travel, $750. That's just an error. That needs to come out. But that's easy. Kim Ark, I'm gonna talk about Kim Ark. I put this increase in there for her. I didn't take it out. She requested zero. I didn't take it out because I wanted discussion. Now, listen, I've talked to Ms. Hart, our North Fleet now, that he's messing the name up there. However, she's just happy she's got a job. But the reality is, she's underpaid. I mean, and I was asking for a $4,205 increase in salary.
Mr. Holt, I'd like, if you don't mind, she's one I definitely think needs to have the pay evaluation of, because I think the different things you've asked her to do in the past year, her job description is
Here's the
completely
other
different
problem,
than
you
what
do
it was.
a pay evaluation for her, she's got a master's degree and everything. It may be a lot higher than that, but it doesn't make any difference. The point is, I want to leave it in there for discussion. And I really do feel that Ms. Norfleet and Mr. Marshall are two that I'm concerned about. The other in my budget is a 3-star grant for $49,000. And it's broken out into 2 parts, and so that can't come out. And the other part is other supplies and materials, 3-star grant. So you're looking at a $50,000 increase in my budget that's just flow through. Which is coming in from the state.
We should flow through that, hold it against you.
No, they got a special grant this year we wrote, and it's for workforce development, actually. And what it does is connects all these different organizations for work preparedness, and it is really great right now because you got this 15%, maybe 20% unemployment. So that's gonna be great. So really, that's the only thing. 2 items, 1 mistake. One was a salary request for Ms. Norfleet, and then the other was an error, and the other 50 grand is pass-through. It's just great.
And for part of that discussion too, when David does, when they get the pay study set up, I think it wouldn't be unreasonable to ask them to look at Kim and Marshall early.
I think probably they need to look at the whole county, because we
Yeah,
talked to the lady, the county is like a between offices, and people's been here, and money be moved around, it's like a 3-ring circus. I mean, honestly,
Yeah,
there's
she's
no
gonna
rhyme or
do,
reason.
and that's part of it, just so everybody knows, she's also gonna compare departments to departments, and maybe try and give us a baseline for entry-level employees and stuff like that.
But I think we really need to have, because we've looked at the lady and got a quote, but we've got the money over here in HR, but I think really probably a committee needs to be set up and get the buy-in from all the officials. Everybody's gonna be involved who they choose. I mean, we've got a quote from the lady, not to speak bad of her, she did a great job, but that's who we could find. I think it really needs to be chosen by all the stakeholders. They need to have 2 or 3 people to come in. That's just my thought process.
I think that's a great idea, is that
They choose them
they have buy-in,
together,
then
the
they can't.
officials, Anthony, the other officials.
Anthony, will you help
and
us
they
get
choose
that
them.
set up?
Oh, yeah, we'll just call I'll ask Ms. Riley to call an elected officials meeting and.
Yeah,
We'll do a request
And
for
David, you
qualifications.
just bring us some proposals and they'll just pick one.
We'll just do RFQ and get them, how many ever we get
And
back?
find out
we'll put them on
stakeholders,
there.
that'd be good.
Sounds good.
Let
Great
me talk about, real quickly, and I'm gonna try to make it brief, about where we're at as far as county government, this. You know, because what I'm trying to do is manage maintenance and all these facilities. We got a lot of facilities now. And in the future, we're gonna have even more. We're gonna have jailhouse, jail addition, parking garage that we're gonna own, courthouse, new courthouse. You're still gonna have the courthouse on the square. You know, I don't know how you're gonna repurpose that, future commissions, but it's gotta be repurposed some way. You can't just abandon it.
I'm telling you, we're selling to Galvin.
There you go.
$1.
You could.
Make a good city hall.
And
But
still
you
save
know-
money.
You know what? I don't think they take it.
Hey, she is
That's
gonna
gonna
be
be
Said they
your
wouldn't already.
We're gonna be.
They wouldn't want it as a big city hall.
But, well, they wanted to remodel. But here's
Yeah, if we
really,
remodel it for 10 million, 15
They
million.
give us the owner we sold it.
here's the real issue I see. When you look at this building, this is kind of the brain of the county. This is where everything goes on. In this building now, I hope you've had a chance to go up and look at IT, where we took basically a non-useful part of the building, and it looks really good. Our maintenance guys did that.
It's fantastic.
So it didn't cost us hardly anything. Stain the floor, concrete, I love that. Less maintenance, they did a great job. I'm going in 2 years, okay? So whoever's here is whoever's here, whoever gets elected. And a lot of you are gonna run for office and you're gonna get elected again, the ones that want to serve. But this building is cooked. There's nothing left. David, out of all the offices, David's office probably has more space than anybody left. Planning. I'm up there now I've got to move their front desk forward to try to cram some cubicles in there because there's no space for employees. Codes. Won't probably change, but I'll probably have to put some cubicles in there. Turn your head, really. Because there's too many people in there. Now, the good thing about codes, they're out of the office a lot, so they're out in the field. But they don't have any personal space. There's just nothing left.
Do we have any more third floor attic besides IT?
No, there's nothing. There's nothing left. There's a mechanical room you can't use.
Up on the roof.
There's
But there's some
nothing.
buzzards up there you have to share with.
What's
But-
in the basement?
But,
Is there anything in the basement?
no, there's nothing. There's just nothing. There's nothing left. Now,
I want to interrupt, since the food's running late. But I was not here as commissioner, but I was here when this building came up to build this building. Now, my point of this is what we're trying to do for the future for the next 58 years. There were commissioners, I won't mention names, one's on the commission now still today,
Yeah.
two's still on the commission.
yeah.
1 to 7.
That said this would be the stupidest thing this county could ever do. What the nickname became, that's where the nickname Taj Mahal came
Oh,
from.
yeah.
Y'all can't believe y'all are doing this.
Yeah.
Oh, and you know, we
I looked at that picture of your head and I wanted
We
to say that.
saved $40,000 because we were supposed to have a full basement, but they cut it out and made it a half basement, and to save $40,000.
Well, anyway, and you're right, Paul, to make,
Can we
long
build that
story
out for
short,
40,000 now?
I just want to thank all of you for taking some political heat to purchase the 3 acres behind this building. That was the smartest thing you ever did. Let me tell you why. With that and the 7 acres that the Board of Education bought behind that, you keep it all on one campus, it's going to be much cheaper in the future to build another building. If you guys run and you're reelected, within 5 years, is my prediction, no more than 10, you're gonna have to build another building. It's just the way it is, because this county is growing. Now realize, this county, if it's not 200,000, it's pretty darn close. I think it's probably a little over 200,000 in population when the census is done. It's gonna continue to grow. This is a desirable county. I don't care what kind of nutcases say that we're overtaxed and everybody's overtaxed, but you look around us, you fact check me, David, we're the lowest tax county around. Robertson County more, Wilson County more, Davidson County more, Macon County more. Bottom line is, we're in the low tax state with a low tax county from Middle Tennessee. Our dynamics are people are going to keep moving here. So, here's my concern. Here's my real concern, and I think you're going to have to address it. Not this year's budget. Maintenance is critical. Here's what's going to happen. 2022, forget about me, anybody replace me. I'm going to retire. Jackie Farley, he's gone. Terry, gone. Charlie, gone. Listen, to replace Jackie Farley, he's been here so long, he makes little money. To replace Jackie Farley, you probably have to spend $80,000 just for one employee.
Didn't he do all the electrical upstairs?
He's got electrical inspection. He knows how to do anything. He built all these shields. You know, Billy knows. Listen, today the trades, and Leslie, your husband's in the trades.
He'll take
You
10
cannot You cannot hire somebody today that knows everything, like a Jackie Farley. My whole point to all of you is, once that happens, county maintenance is, you have been very supportive. Our buildings, and you can ask our maintenance people, are in better shape than they have ever been in, ever. If you do not start replacing some of these maintenance people and hire somebody that he can train for the next couple of years, what's gonna happen is you're gonna be in free fall. Now, I've heard people say, well, the schools have a great maintenance department, and they do. But they work for Dale Phillips and Board of Education. Trust me, if the courthouse goes down, or the jail goes down, you can't wait 3 days. You can't wait any time. I get on the phone, I call them, you gotta go immediately fix that. And they do. You do not want to farm out maintenance to another county organization because they're not gonna be as responsive. That's just the way it is. They have their obligations, they're gonna take care of those. And he does a great job.
How long do you think it'll take to
my point
find
is,
somebody to train
you
out?
need to beef that up. And you bought vehicles and we have equipment. But the point is, if you let that fall and falter and let everybody leave, you're gonna have the biggest disaster you've ever seen. Right, Leah? I mean, it just
What I'm saying
is.
is, when do you think when you?
Next year, you're gonna have to pump it up, and you're gonna have to hire some people, and you're gonna have to put some real money out to start building that up.
Are you talking 2 or 3 people?
I'm talking at least 2 people, but a real qualified person you gotta pay. Here's your problem. To get that qualified person, they're gonna make a lot more money than Jackie Farley, and you can't equitably do that. You see what I'm saying? You can't hire a guy in for $70,000 and Jackie's making much, much less money, and he knows more than the guy, or lady, or whoever you hire.
Don't stop for lunch, you won't turn it
But
off.
I just wanted to bring that out to you, and I know everybody wants to eat, but I'm telling you, that is going to be a serious problem for county
Well, no,
government.
we've, you and I, we've all.
Since the owl's on them, we're turning it off for lunch.
Taking a break for lunch.
Please.
So